mountains in parts of eastern Scotland. Some of the higher routes here still being affected by that, but turning it again here also more to rain. Bands of rain moving northwards, something a little bit brighter across parts of the south where we might reach 11 or perhaps even 12 Celsius in one or two places, but certainly feeling cold on these North Sea coasts with the rain and that persistent and fairly nagging wind. As I mentioned, something a bit drier and brighter across the south into this evening. Still a few showers here and there, but generally, I say, brightening up a little bit, but staying wet over North Wales and Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here, expecting some further disruption. Stays wet too across northeast England, further snow on the tops of the mountains. But again, with that easterly wind, it's western Scotland doing best for a bit of shelter. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. This main zone of rain pushes northwards, the snow turning more and more to rain over the hills of eastern Scotland. But then another zone of heavy showers comes into parts of the southwest, something a little bit drier in between, maybe some clearer skies. That easterly wind becomes confined to eastern Scotland. Slight change in wind direction over northeast England. Temperatures mostly holding up a little bit above freezing. Into the weekend, it's a messy mix. Again, western Scotland probably doing okay for dry and bright weather. Eastern Scotland stays soggy, and for the rest of us, it's a case of some dry and bright spells, but also more showers. You can see the low pressure there, just spinning showers up and down the land, some heavy, some brighter spells in between. Bye for now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country, whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right. Get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 6th of February. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson. Now, Labour's civil war deepens as Angela Rayner tells allies she's ready to run, with MPs warning Sir Keir Starmer's premiership is hanging by a teeny tiny thread after that Mandelson revolt.
Meanwhile, the Home Office releases 2 new footages of return flights as they announce that 60,000 illegal migrants and criminals have been removed since the election.
The President reiterated to the Prime Minister and to all of you that the United States will never waver, if necessary, in protecting our assets anywhere in the world, but including on Diego Garcia.
Yeah, President Trump has sensationally U-turned and now backs the Prime Minister's Chagos deal, only a fortnight after calling it an act of great stupidity.
Elsewhere, is Britain safe for women? An Iranian asylum seeker, well, illegal migrant, is sentenced to more than 7 years for sexually assaulting a teenager, Abby Johnson. She bravely waived her anonymity and spoke outside court.
Finally seeing the man who done it to me and him acting as if he's all sad and hearing that he feels bad for what he's done, it was really hard, but to watch him go away and be sent off, that was the best feeling.
Incredible young lady. Now, GB News is championing Britain's world-class whisky industry ahead of International Scotch Whisky Day. We'll be live at the Glenturret Distillery.
Well, whisky is all about the experience, whether you drink it, whether you visit a distillery, whether you share it with friends. I think I've kept you waiting long enough in sampling this dram here, but experience is all the name of the game over the next hour here at Glenturret Distillery.
Now, Tony is an absolute trooper. I'm told he hasn't been having a shot every single hour since breakfast, but I mean, who knows?
Well, I think he's doing a cracking job up there, and in the interest of proper journalism, I think he really should be having a taste of that whiskey every hour.
I know I would.
But yeah, I know we would, and we will. We are going to join Tony and have a wee dram in the studio here, because it's got to be done. Obviously, we've got to make sure that Tony's doing it correctly.
Absolutely, and we have to do it particularly because I'm going to be getting up at the end of the show and trying to explain a complicated physics story on a whiteboard. I think the aid and abetance of some whiskey would
yes, I think it will really help. Yeah, it
Mm.
involves complicated angles and things. So Tom is across that one. It's an whiteboard. It's to do with the Olympics. It really is rather fun. But we have got an amazing show coming up for you with lots of serious stuff as well, including my big thing. You were with us last week when the awful story of Rhiannon White broke with her, the piece of filth that murdered her, basically being sentenced. And another week, and we have another young lady. We have the incredibly brave Abby Jones, who was raped by an asylum seeker. And
illegal migrant back of a lorry.
Yes, but he was approved for asylum. We don't know how that happened. In any case, that's not the point. The point is that last week it's Rhiannon, this week it's Abby. Next week, who will it be? Will it be your daughter? Will it be you? So we're asking, how safe is the UK for women and girls?
And can I just say, Dawn, I really admire how you're naming the survivors here.
I'm not naming
the women, the girls. We're not naming the individuals who hurt them.
Rhiannon and Abby are the people we should be thinking about in this. They're the important ones. And we are thinking about it, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it until someone, a politician out there, I don't care which party you're with, does something about it. I don't want any more Rhiannons, and I don't want any more Abbies. So we'll be talking about that during the show as well, with some great interviews coming up for you.
But of course, you can get involved, gbnews.com/your say, as ever. In the meantime, let's get those latest news headlines with Sophia.
Tom, thank you. Very good afternoon. It's just gone midday. I'm Sophia Hill in the GB newsroom. Keir Starmer remains under pressure from within Labour ranks as he seeks to steady the ship amid widespread anger over the Lord Mandelson scandal. The Prime Minister has apologised to Jeffrey Epstein's victims for believing the peer's lies about his relationship with the paedophile financier. Meanwhile, former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as leader of Labour. Opposition leaders Sir Kemi Badenoch and Sir Ed Davey have now called for a vote of no confidence in the Labour Party leader, while Reform UK leader Nigel Farage described the Prime Minister's apology to the victims as weak. Labour Minister Mike Tapp spoke to GB News about his faith in the Prime Minister earlier on.
With absolute respect to Baroness Harman, she hasn't seen the files. Neither have I, neither have the public. But I do know that Keir Starmer's a good man. I do know that he means it when he apologises, and I also know that he's working hard with Jess Phillips, for example, to ensure that we reduce violence against women and girls and make the country safer for them. So I trust the Prime Minister on this, and I'm confident that when these files are released, the public will agree with that.
The police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year. The investigations are assessing if South Yorkshire Police was involved in online harassment, stalking and leaking personal information about the victim. In response, South Yorkshire Police said that we are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation. Elsewhere, an inquiry into the deadliest channel crossing on record concluded that small boat crossings must end, warning some of the 30 people who died could have been saved. The independent probe found systemic failures, missed distress calls and chronic staff shortages in the UK's maritime response. Meanwhile, the report has made 18 recommendations to prevent another disaster. All 3 African countries Britain threatened with Trump-style visa sanctions have now agreed to cooperate over the return of illegal migrants. More than 3,000 migrants and foreign criminals from Namibia, Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo will now have their deportations fast-tracked. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave them a month to start cooperating or face a sliding scale of penalties that would have culminated in a ban on visas for their citizens. Sir Keir Starmer's flagship Chagos Islands bill has been pulled from the parliamentary calendar. That's as pressure grows on the Prime Minister to rethink plans to hand sovereignty to Mauritius. Labour peer Lord Kempsell confirmed the legislation will not return to the Commons before MPs leave for recess on the 12th of February. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has appeared to soften his stance on the deal, saying that Sir Keir made the best agreement he could following what he described as productive talks over the UK-US military base on Diego Garcia. And the cost of a TV licence will rise to £180. That's from April this year. The increase is in line with inflation and follows the terms of the 2022 licence fee settlement. It comes as the government continues its review of the BBC's charter, aimed at ensuring the broadcaster is sustainably funded, delivers value for money and maintains public trust through impartial reporting. A new review has found that statins, the cholesterol-lowering drugs used by millions, are far safer than previously thought. According to a comprehensive review, almost all listed side effects for statins are not caused by the drugs. Those behind the report are now calling for guidance to reflect this in order not to put patients off using the pills. And preparations are underway in Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony tonight. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan's San Siro soccer stadium. Live pictures there on your screen, which will provide the stage for the main part of tonight's ceremony, where US pop singer Mariah Carey and Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli will perform. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters are gathering to oppose the presence of US ICE agents and the closure of schools and streets in the city ahead of tonight's ceremony. The event will combine elements from both co-hosts, Cortina and Milan, seeking to reflect both city and mountain life. And of course, we wish Team GB lots of luck. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.358 and €1.151. The price of gold is £3,599.72 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 1,032 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is now 9 minutes past midday. And a violent asylum seeker is on the run after he was convicted on 2 counts of assault at a former Essex military base used to house asylum seekers.
The convicted attacker failed to appear at court this week, and the Home Office say they are assisting police to track down the culprit.
Well, joining us is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, with the very latest. Mark, this is a breaking news story.
Yeah, this was an incident that unfolded some time ago, but the court case was this week. So the man at the centre of this is a Syrian national, Adnan Mohammed, who was appearing before Colchester Magistrates Court this week, charged with a violent attack on 2 security guards at the Wethersfield migrant camp near Braintree, home to about 800 young male asylum seekers. An individual who witnesses had told the court had, you can see him there, had a history of violent outbursts at the Wethersfield camp. He had, not long before the attack on the 2 guards, apparently ransacked the office, damaged, vandalised the security office, you can see there. So the security guards were used to his outbursts, but this particular incident in April of 2024 was described as very violent. He'd been drinking, apparently, demanded to see a doctor before then launching the attack on 2 security guards, head-butting and knocking one to the ground, kicking them and punching out at them as well. Now, that hearing, as I say, was at Colchester Magistrates Court this week. He did not appear. He was not represented by a defence team who were told withdrew from this process sometime earlier. So an arrest warrant was issued for him after the magistrate found him guilty of 2 counts of assault by beating. So the magistrate then issued an arrest warrant, but this man is at large, and the authorities at this stage do not know where he came from or where he is at the moment. We are told, just coming through from one of our sources, that he arrived in the UK on a small boat. So one of the many small boat migrants being housed at Wethersfield and elsewhere. We've had a statement from the Home Office. Home Office spokesperson said, "We're assisting the police to track down this individual. We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws. We are reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeals system so we can scale up deportations." The statement concludes by saying all foreign national offenders who receive a prison sentence in the UK are referred for deportation at the earliest opportunity. We have to find him first. And at the moment, this young man is at large and clearly poses a potential risk to the public, given his violent proclivity.
So first question, Mark, is the security guards, how are they?
They're OK. One suffered some cuts to the mouth and bruising, as you would expect, but it was some time ago. So they're OK. I think the concern is more about the potential risk that this young man poses now. He's shown his propensity for violent outbursts in the past. He is the subject of an arrest warrant. The authorities want to bring him into custody with a view to then deporting him. So he may well try to resist that process. which is why, you know, we've got a picture out there. And there is an active search underway at the moment to try to...
So we knew he was violent. He was allowed to come and go as he pleased, despite everybody knowing he was violent, and he entered this country illegal, so therefore he's a violent criminal.
And that's by no means unusual. And there are plenty of people in asylum accommodation throughout the country that fall foul of the law and are deemed to be violent. They go through our courts process, and depending on how serious the crime is alleged, that it's alleged they committed, they may well find themselves subject of a deportation order as well.
Well, of course, this is where a lot of people have been concerned about local facilities near them that are simply not secure, where people can come and go as they please, apparently can access alcohol as well, as this story tells us. I mean, people will feel unsafe near these facilities.
Yeah, they will do, and it just goes to highlight the concern that people have generally about those coming across on small boats, as this young man did, came across the English Channel, a Syrian national, and people don't know who these individuals are, what potential criminal record or propensity for violence they might have in their own countries. Wow. And because they often throw their documents away, it's difficult to get an idea exactly who they are and the risk they pose. And of course, if you come from a country like Syria anyway, the chances of accurate records being kept of an individual and how well or otherwise they've behaved during their time there is pretty unlikely as well. So that's why many people are rightly concerned at who's coming across the channel and the potential risk that they pose. Here is another, a young man, a violent offender, convicted of 2 counts of assault by beating, who is now at large, refused to turn up for his hearing in court, and the subject of a police manhunt.
So the bottom line is, Mark, we know nothing about him. We don't know how old he is. We don't even know if he's genuinely from Syria. We don't know if he's got any contacts in the country.
No, I mean, judging by that picture, which was taken shortly before this assault, he looks like a man in his early to mid-20s, but you just don't know.
No.
But that doesn't really matter, to be honest. He's a young, fit man who's out there, who's shown previously that he is a violent individual, that he, you know, is more violent even when he's drinking. And we don't know if he's got a sort of a network of friends that are supporting him at the moment, or where he might be. Essex Police have said that another force area is involved in checking an address linked to this individual. So it's likely, remember, this assault took place in April of 2024. So then the subsequent court case is always a bit further down the road. And what often happens with people at Wethersfield or elsewhere is they're maybe there for a few months, 6 months or whatever, then they move on to dispersed accommodation. Well, what is dispersed accommodation? It's in a street near you or me, which just adds to the level of concern.
And this is a GBNews exclusive, Mark.
Yeah.
Right, well, if it wasn't for you uncovering these stories, most people out there would not have a clue that this man was out there on the run.
I mean, they happen all the time. And this is the problem. When you arrive in this country by breaking the law, when the first thing that you do is set foot in this country by disobeying the express wishes of the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary and, frankly, everyone in the country, well, then why would you follow subsequent laws? Of course he didn't turn up to the court hearing. Of course he's on the run now. I mean, the very first thing he did was disregard the authorities of this country. So, of course, he's going to disregard future authority.
So we're getting just bits and pieces of information all the time on this being fed to us from sources. I'm told that he arrived by small boat in January of 2024. So he went on to commit this very violent assault or assaults on 2 security officers within 4 months of arriving here by small boat.
Where have we heard that before? The same applied to Rhiannon White. We were covering that story this time last week. 4 months here and killed Rhiannon. Mark White, thank you very much. We will bring you any more detail as and when we get them on that story, obviously.
But now the former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is reportedly ready to launch a leadership campaign after the Prime Minister is fighting for his premiership.
Yeah, this is the same MP who 5 months ago resigned from her government role over a tax scandal involving underpaid stamp duty, which we understand still hasn't been paid.
Well, it comes as Sir Keir Starmer apologised and expressed regret in appointing Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to the United States. But let's jump straight to Downing Street, where our political editor, Christopher Hope, has just left a briefing. Christopher, what can you tell us?
Well, it's going to be quite a while, it seems, before we see these Mandelson files. We understand that it's in the very high tens of thousands of documents the government and officials are reviewing in the building behind me and to my left, where the Cabinet Office is based. The spokesman for Number 10 says this: "We are in the process of collating the huge number of documents, thousands of documents to process and review. We want to meet Parliament's request with urgency," they say. It's a matter of priority. It's important, the government says, not to undermine the police investigation into Lord Mandelson, but equally I think the government can't really afford not to get their story out quickly. The PM said yesterday, didn't he, he wanted to produce the papers that justify his position on believing what Lord Mandelson told him before he was appointed to then be ambassador of the US, before Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday. That hasn't happened. It won't be today. It may be next week. But this drip, drip, drip of information which may emerge now from the Mandelson files, let alone what's not discovered yet in the Epstein files, is a problem for the government. They haven't quite got to grips with this information flow, with this scandal, frankly. It's still moving. We wait to see what's in this weekend's Sunday papers. Number 10 denies with a categoric no. Is the PM blaming the security services for not giving him the correct vetting information about Lord Mandelson? They're not blaming them, but they think that the areas of the vetting could be improved, but the PM says they are not blaming the security services. There's other areas too around Lord Mandelson. We asked whether the French should remove the Légion d'honneur from Lord Mandelson, which was awarded to him in 2017. Number 10 says that is not an issue for the Élysée Palace, but they point out the PM was quick to act to stop him being a Privy Councillor, remove his right to sit in the House of Lords with upcoming legislation, which is still being drafted. A Mandelson Act is still being drafted. Elsewhere, on the licence fee, it's going up to £180 from April. And it's interesting this because the Tories, of course, froze that, but Labour is increasing it. Now, that a big increase in licence fee of £6 or so will hit those on lower incomes harder than those on higher incomes. So it's interesting, isn't it, that the Tories were doing more to protect those on low incomes in this situation than the Labour government is. But the government says this, that they are committed to driving down the cost of living. They don't accept the characterisation that this is a reward for failure over the BBC's failures and the embarrassment over editing that Trump speech, but could leave the broadcaster on the hook for billions of dollars if that litigation goes through in America from Donald Trump. They say this: the PM's track record will show in the coming months there's a variety of ways he's bringing down the cost of living crisis. They listed some of the measures: £150 off bills in April, triple lock protected on pensions, rail fares frozen. And just finally, on the Chagos Islands, now Number 10 now say they welcome the support of the President of the United States for the deal. They couldn't say that to me on Monday because the President had issued that statement saying it was a deal which was idiotic or stupid, of the language that the President used then. They now say they'll continue the legislative process and they'll go back to the Lords, and the UK will still now be paying tens of billions of pounds of our taxpayers' money over the next 100 years for handing back sovereignty over islands to Mauritius. That money will still come out of the public purse.
Christopher, obviously Mauritius never owned the islands in the first place. When they were owned by Mauritius, it was a British territory, so we own them. Oh, my God. Make it make sense.
Well, don't blame me, Dawn.
Actually, now you mention it.
Don't blame me, Dawn. This is the government choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's complete. I was talking to someone I know in the State Department in Washington, D.C., who I was just sort of impressing upon, and this individual was saying to me, you guys always give away your territory. It's what you've done for the last 100 years. And I'm like, yeah, but this is important. This is costing us billions. It's like, yeah, it's costing you billions. So I think this is the American attitude. I mean, it's bad for us, but they see it as sort of neutral for them.
We will be talking to Chris. We didn't say goodbye to him, which is terribly rude of us, but we got angry. It's a Friday. We're allowed to get angry, by the way. But we will be talking to Christopher back later in the show because we have so many questions, not least concerning Angela Rayner and what she's up to.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Chris, for being there on Downing Street for us. Now, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News.
Yeah, there's lots more coming up on today's show. We're asked whether women are safe in Britain after yet another shocking case reignites concerns over borders and the system meant to protect women and girls.
But after the break, the United States backs Britain's controversial Chagos Islands deal after Donald Trump gives Keir Starmer his approval, despite previously branding it as a great act of stupidity.
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't you dare move a muscle. We'll see you soon.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And you see, I would have thought that the stammer business had gone away, right? But it hasn't gone away. It'll always be with you, but you control it very well. Indeed, we should point out that Gareth has his voice coach, Amy, in the studio today, here in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing, having a stammer. You know, unfortunately, there's no cure for it. But I'm part of a speech therapy programme called the Maguire Programme. Myself and my coach, Amy, is on the same programme, and we help each other. And we learn a new way of breathing, new way of speaking, and most importantly, a new way of tackling the mindsets which come with having a stammer, which is fear. This is my most fearful situation.
But, my friend, when you get up on that stage and you put a microphone in your hand and you sing, are you worried about it then? Does it manifest itself then?
No, I mean, every time I sing, or, you know, I've done big West End shows where I've had to act and, you know, read pages of dialogue. Yeah. It's just not an issue because I adopt a different persona. I'm not me. I'm, you know, whatever mask I'm wearing, whatever character I'm playing. I'm really unsure how I'll fare without my top on in this next show that I'm doing, Boy Band in the Buff, but let's see.
What is the stammer caused by then? Because some people, you said it's incurable, so that means that there's actually something, there's an issue.
Yeah, it's certainly a kind of mindset thing. It's actually based upon fear, and you know, we have to sort of retrain ourselves. And you know, if you're scared of heights, for instance, what's the best thing to do? To go to the highest building, and eventually you'll get close to the edge.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. The time is 27 minutes past midday.
Yes, and it's not all bad news for Sir Keir Starmer. Kind of. As President Trump has surprisingly endorsed the Prime Minister's Chagos deal.
I wonder how much diplomatic effort we spent on trying to get the President of the United States to allow us to self-immolate.
I wonder if we sent Peter Mandelson over there. Oh, no, we didn't, no.
Well, the American president hinted that he'll agree the Chagos Islands deal, describing it as the best Sir Keir Starmer could make.
That's damning with faint praise, isn't it? It comes just weeks after the US president slammed the deal as an act of great stupidity.
Well, joining us now is the editor of the Chagos Files, Tessa Clark. Tessa, thanks indeed for joining us. I'm getting the impression that the Americans don't view this as a high priority issue, and they still think Britain is doing something stupid, but ultimately it's our money, not theirs, so there it goes.
Well, I think that's broadly right. I mean, it's very telling, actually, that the US ambassador to Britain has said that the US would prefer if the sovereignty remained British. But in the circumstances, if it's the best deal, then they will go with it. Trump has made it very clear, though, that he would be willing to send troops in, although there are troops there. But, you know, he would be willing to defend militarily the islands if anything upset the US base there. And we have to remember that, of course, things are hotting up in the Middle East with Iran and things also in the South China Sea. So this is a base that has a long history of British and US cooperation to defend Western interests militarily and secure for all of us our freedoms as leaders decide and how they think it should be run. So, you know, for the leaders themselves, Trump and Starmer, they believe that this is in the best interest of all our security. And they believe that that is a patriotic thing to do. The trouble is, in my opinion, is that democracy is the big loser in all this, not only for the Chagosian people who were thrown off without any reward or right of housing anywhere else, including in Britain. They have no right to housing in Britain either. And also for the British public. Where was the big discussion? In Britain, the political system is not democratic. The Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary can use royal prerogative powers to simply make treaties and hand over sovereignty of our own country. And Parliament is simply voting on an agreement that's already broadly been agreed.
I mean, Tessa, what would have happened if we hadn't done this deal, if we'd have just left the status quo? The honest truth is nothing really would have happened, would it?
Well, according to lawyers, and I was in Parliament this week listening to Professor Philippe Sands, KC, who was representing Mauritius in the International Court of Justice, and he outlined how it wasn't just the advisory opinion of that court that was the issue for the British government, but in fact, when this sort of thing happens, the General Assembly then at the United Nations then decides if it supports that, and they did. They supported Mauritius' claim to sovereignty, and the United Nations even have changed their maps to state that the Chagos Islands now belong to Mauritius, although that doesn't mean that sovereignty is 100%, because, of course, Parliament has to ratify the treaty bill.
I mean, the most extraordinary thing here is that under the previous government, there were, of course, some negotiations. But then when David Cameron became Foreign Secretary, he put a stop to it. He said, absolutely not. We're not going to hand over these islands. The negotiations stopped. It just seems so peculiar that as soon as the Labour government got in, they picked these negotiations back up again. And there is a particular connection here between the Prime Minister, Lord Hermer, his Attorney General, and Philippe Sands, an old friend who has been campaigning for years to try and rid Britain of the land that it owns that isn't particularly contiguous to these isles.
I think what's interesting, actually, I have been following this for 15 years on and off, and I have seen and met and interviewed a lot of Labour left-wingers who are campaigning, actually, for Chagosian rights to self-determination, or at least the right to resettle on the islands. And there was a huge common ground there. And then suddenly the whole movement, in a sense, split between those that supported the Mauritian state to have the right of sovereignty and then the Chagosian rights to come after in some way, and those that supported the British sovereignty rights and for Chagosian rights to somehow come after that. The trouble is that what is forgotten is that the Chagosians have had no say on this. They have simply been listened to. That's what they constantly said. We're listening to you, say government officials. And I'm not just talking about the current government. The previous government were constantly listening to Chagosian people. Well, that's an insult. They need rights, not just being listened to. And in fact, they aren't being listened to, because what they all have in common, whether they support Mauritian or British sovereignty, is they want to go back and they want some sort of control over their living circumstances there too, completely ignored in this deal. So now is the time to raise amongst the British public, how can we get more democracy into the process to hold our leaders to account on these kind of crucial issues?
Tessa, it's very interesting how the people of Greenland are always consulted about what happens to their island, but the people from the Chagos Islands are ignored. Tessa, thank you so much for talking to us today. Very important subject there. As editor of the Chagos Files, Tessa Clark, thank you very much.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's still plenty more to come on today's programme, including just how much time does the Prime Minister have left? Well, that's to come after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. These are your latest headlines just after 12:30. Sir Keir Starmer remains under pressure from within Labour ranks as he seeks to steady the ship amid widespread anger over the Lord Mandelson scandal. Meanwhile, former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as Labour leader. The police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year. In response, the South Yorkshire Police said that we are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation. The cost of a TV licence will rise to £180 from April this year. The increase is in line with inflation and follows the terms of the 2022 licence fee settlement. In Portugal, flooding continues across several regions after weeks of torrential rain linked to a so-called storm battering the Iberian Peninsula. The government has extended a state of calamity in 69 municipalities until mid-February. That's as civil protection officials warn that multiple rivers remain at risk of significant flooding. And preparations are underway in Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony tonight. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan's San Siro Stadium. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters are gathering to oppose the presence of US ICE agents and the closures of schools and streets in the city ahead of the opening tonight. Those are the latest headlines for now. More on those stories at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Well, thanks very much. Lots more still to come on today's programme.
Yeah, we'll be asking whether women are safe in Britain after yet another shocking case reignites concerns over violence, borders and the system meant to protect women and girls in this country.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Another wet one for most places today. Still quite a cold wind blowing in off the North Sea. It is turning a little brighter in the south and parts of western Scotland. Again, doing OK for dry and bright weather. But for most of us, low pressure means more cloud and further outbreaks of rain. We've seen some hill snow across the Pennines. That's turning more and more to rain, but still some snow falling over the tops of the mountains in parts of eastern Scotland. Some of the higher routes here still being affected by that, but turning again here also more to rain. Bands of rain moving northwards, something a little bit brighter across parts of the south where we might reach 11 or perhaps even 12 Celsius in one or two places, but certainly feeling cold on these North Sea coasts with the rain and that persistent and fairly nagging wind. As I mentioned, something a bit drier and brighter across the south into this evening. Still a few showers here and there, but generally, I say, brightening up a little bit, but staying wet over North Wales and Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here. Expecting some further disruption. Stays wet too across northeast England. Further snow on the tops of the mountains. But again, with that easterly wind, it's western Scotland doing best for a bit of shelter. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. This main zone of rain pushes northwards, the snow turning more and more to rain over the hills of eastern Scotland. But then another zone of heavy showers comes into parts of the southwest, something a little bit drier in between, maybe some clearer skies. That easterly wind becomes confined to eastern Scotland. It's like changing wind direction over northeast England. Temperatures mostly holding up a little bit above freezing. Into the weekend, it's a messy mix. Again, western Scotland probably doing OK for dry and bright weather. Eastern Scotland stays soggy. And for the rest of us, it's a case of some dry and bright spells, but also more showers. You can see the low pressure there. Just spinning showers up and down the land. Some heavy, some brighter spells in between. Bye for now.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. High winds are affecting the Forth Road Bridge on the A9000. In Derbyshire, the A50 westbound has a lane closed after a crash between the A515 and the A518, expected to clear around 1:20 this afternoon. In Surrey, the M3 westbound has 2 lanes shut following an accident between Junction 2 and Junction 3, with conditions improving by just before 1 this afternoon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report major disruption with reduced services between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 39 minutes past midday.
OK, and now an Iranian illegal immigrant has been sentenced to 7.5 years in total for sexually assaulting a 19-year-old teenager called Abby Johnson last May.
Well, GB News' very own Patrick Christie's caught up with Abby after the sentencing. Let's take a listen.
So, how do you feel after that, then?
A lot better, because obviously we was told that it would be about 18 months. So to get 4.5 years and a 3 years extended licence period is brilliant. Yeah. It is brilliant.
So it's essentially a 7.5-year sentence in total. Look, you were incredibly brave in there.
Thank you.
What was that like, coming face to face with him?
I'll never be able to explain it, because it was the most scariest thing I've ever had to do, and finally seeing the man who done it to me, and him acting as if he's all sad and hearing that he feels bad for what he's done. It was really hard, but to watch him go away and be sent off, that was the best feeling.
I noticed that you made a point of really staring at him as he was sent away.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do that?
Because I felt like I had that control back. You know, I felt like before this he's had the control the whole time. But being able to go out there and say my piece, and I've done everything to get him sent away, and I got him sent away for a lot longer than what I thought he was going to be. To watch him walk down all sad and all that acting was a very powerful feeling for me.
Well, with Sir Keir Starmer having vowed to halve gender violence against women and girls, Abby's case, as well as Rhiannon White's, raises a poignant question. Is Britain no longer safe for women and girls?
OK, so joining us now in the studio is the Executive Chair of Women's Policy Centre, Paola Diana. Paola, thank you so much for coming in. We were just discussing in the break there, I mean, both of us are very, very angry about this situation. The piece of filth, I'm not using his name, that attacked Abby, his lawyer used the defence that from his culture he didn't understand the culture, how to behave in this country. How many more Abbys, how many more Rhiannons from last week do we need before someone does something?
Exactly. We don't need more. We don't want more. This is enough for now, because we have to prevent this from happening. And the only way to prevent this from happening is to close the borders. Because now we know that women's safety is strictly directly connected with illegal migration. We don't want violent, predatory men coming from cultures that are far beyond our culture, where it's normal for these men to commit child abuse and rape. We don't want these men here. We really don't. We have to protect British women and girls once and for all. And this Labour government is lying to us. They're not doing anything for us. They're putting our daughters and us in danger every day, every single day. When we go out, we are in danger. And I salute Abby because she's a very brave woman.
Incredibly brave, a young woman who decided to speak out and not hide behind the cloak of being anonymous, because, as she says, she has done nothing wrong. But we hear lip service. We hear from Jess Phillips' lip service about the grooming gangs. We hear from Keir Starmer this week talking about the Jeffrey Epstein situation. He's sorry for what the women and girls in that case went through. Well, yeah, of course, it's awful what those women and girls went through. What about the women and girls in this country? What are you going to do about them? Why are they not listening to us?
Exactly. They're not listening to us. The Labour Party has abandoned women. They have abandoned us. And they are only doing the national inquiry for the grooming gangs victims because the public finally is speaking up. They don't want to help victims and they don't want to prevent this from happening. So I hope women in this country will stop voting for the Labour Party because they have abandoned us and they have to pay for this.
When the Labour Party announced its strategy against violence against women and girls, this question was raised by, I think it was Katie Lamb on the opposition front bench, saying, how can you tackle these problems if you don't secure your borders? The answer that the Labour front bench gave was, yes, of course, those are bad, but there are native-born rapists in this country too. What do you say to that?
What a lazy response. Of course they are, but we don't want more. Why we would want more? Are we suicidal? Are we suicidal? No. Thank you. We don't want more. We don't need more. And also, these type of men, they're actually quite different because remember that the grooming, rape, torture gangs are mainly made by Pakistani men. And if we look into Pakistan, we know that the cases of child abuse and rape are very, very high. And they don't go to prison because of their honor culture system. We don't want more Afghani men here because if we will have more, our country will become exactly like Afghanistan, like Pakistan, like Iran. Do you want to live in these countries? No. We don't want to lose our rights. Women's rights are the cornerstone of this democracy, and we have to protect them and preserve them. And women's safety is part of women's rights, because we cannot have rights if we are put in danger every single day.
Paola, the one thing that people say when you have this conversation, certainly about our illegal migrants coming into this country on the boats, who, as we know, are mostly young men, is you are racist. You are, at the very best, xenophobic. You don't want these men coming over here because they are a different colour to us. What would your answer be to people that say that?
I reject this accuse completely, entirely, because this is a false accusation. We don't care about the colour of the skin. We only care about the way they behave. And we want to prevent risk to happen. We don't want to act after. And in order to prevent risk to happen, we have to close the borders. It's like our country is being invaded. Literally, we are in a war situation. And our political leadership is now lacking moral standing.
When you say close the borders, do you mean no illegal migration, or do you mean something more than that?
First of all, no illegal migration, but also we should finally look into who is coming and from which countries are coming, because we could definitely stop visas from countries where we know that women are not safe. Why not? It's totally doable. We don't want to have more men from certain countries until they don't start treating their children and their women in a decent, civilized way. Why not? Why can't we ask for that? Women are taxpayers. We pay taxes. Why can't we demand to be safe?
Yeah.
In the country we are funding.
Paola, we have run out of time, unfortunately. Very, very strong words, a strong opinion. That's our Executive Chair, Women's Policy Centre, Paola Diana. Obviously, let us know what you think about that story, please.
Now, we should say a government spokesperson has said this: it's our mission to halve violence against women and girls within the next decade. This requires a total transformation across government. Our violence against women and girls strategy does exactly that. It's targeted at preventing those awful crimes, tackling perpetrators so they can't offend again, and helping victims to get justice.
OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There is lots more coming up on today's show, including a wee dram of something special as we are celebrating British whiskey. All of that coming up very soon after the short break for this weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Further very heavy rain and strong winds in Spain and Portugal, likely to cause more flooding problems here throughout the weekend. Another spell of very heavy rain, especially across the south of Spain, where river levels are already running exceptionally high. There'll be some showers heading into Italy, also looking a little drier for Greece on Saturday, with some sunny spells here, and we'll continue to see some sunshine across the Canaries through the weekend and into the early part of next week, with temperatures rising a little bit here too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Thank the Lord you're back is all I can say. It's been on one during the break. It is at 9 minutes.
We should say
9 minutes to 1.
You were complaining about the chemicals in your drink.
You don't need to explain. Let's move on. Let's
I said everything is made of chemicals. Everything is chemicals.
You don't want to know.
Do you want to know how many E numbers are in a natural banana?
No, they really don't.
Right.
If you do want to know, message. I'm quite interested in how many chemicals are in Scotch whisky. So
Absolutely,
shall we find out?
Because it's International Scotch Whisky Day around the corner, and what better way to celebrate than champion the industry?
Yes, so GB News has been looking at the challenges facing the whisky industry, such as supply chain issues and business rates.
Well, let's join Tony Maguire now, who's at the Glenturret Distillery in Crieff. Tony, I hope you've been having a merry time there. What's going on?
Yeah, so first things first, OK, I'll tell you exactly how many chemicals are in Scotch whisky. Big fat zero. There is only 3 ingredients in Scotch whisky: a little yeast, river water from a nearby source, and of course grain. So none of this chemicals business. But we are here talking about Scotch whisky all day today, celebrating International Scotch Whisky Day at the weekend. And a big part of the whisky industry in Scotland is experienced. 2.7 million people come on whisky tours and tastings all across Scotland every year, and not everyone likes drinking whisky, but thankfully this industry has so much more. And to tell us more, I'm joined by Don Duncan. Now, you are head, I guess, of the visitor experience here. You know, this is Scotland's oldest distillery. I'm sure there must be so many stories wrapped up here.
Oh, there are many, many stories, Tony. We have been illegally making whisky here since 1763. That's quite a long time. And obviously we've had lots of visitors in that time. In 2014. We are very fortunate to have the Earl and Countess of Strathearn visit here.
I don't recognise those names.
Well, you might know if I said the Prince and Princess of Wales.
And that's their local names?
It's their local title here. So they visited us in 2014. We've had lots of other famous people coming to the distillery. But as you say, rightly, my job is to look after the tours. And we do all sorts of tours here. You know, it's not just going to the distillery. We have fantastic tours which you can actually make whisky, take your own whisky away from unique whiskies only produced here.
And I need to ask you about one of the most famous residents that's ever been here, Towser the Mouser. It was a cat that lived here for 24 years, and in that time it caught how many mice?
28,899.
Well, that's very precise, you know, and obviously Guinness recognised that as well.
She is in the Guinness Book of Records as the world's most famous mouse assassin.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that great stories about Glen Turret. I will say that Towser has now been replaced by Glen and Turret, and well, they're having a lazy day today.
Well, Tony, thanks indeed for being there for us. What a marvellous industry to champion. I think we should probably do our bit as well. I won't say what's in the mug.
No, yeah, cheers. And Tony will be joining us later on the show. Well, hopefully he is having a wee few drams. It has to be said. Got to try them all out. It's journalism.
Well, lots more to come, but here's your weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Another wet one for most places today. Still quite a cold wind blowing in off the North Sea. It is turning a little brighter in the south and parts of western Scotland. Again, doing OK for dry and bright weather. But for most of us, low pressure means more cloud and further outbreaks of rain. We've seen some hill snow across the Pennines. That's turning more and more to rain, but still some snow falling over the tops of the mountains in parts of eastern Scotland. Some of the higher routes here still being affected by that, but turning again here also more to rain. Bands of rain moving northwards, something a little bit brighter across parts of the south where we might reach 11 or perhaps even 12 Celsius in one or two places, but certainly feeling cold on these North Sea coasts with the rain and that persistent and fairly nagging wind. As I mentioned, something a bit drier and brighter across the south into this evening. Still a few showers here and there, but generally, I say, brightening up a little bit, but staying wet over North Wales and Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here. Expecting some further disruption. Stays wet too across northeast England. Further snow on the tops of the mountains. But again, with that easterly wind, it's western Scotland doing best for a bit of shelter. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. This main zone of rain pushes northwards, the snow turning more and more to rain over the hills of eastern Scotland. But then another zone of heavy showers comes into parts of the southwest, something a little bit drier in between, maybe some clearer skies. That easterly wind becomes confined to eastern Scotland. It's like changing wind direction over northeast England. Temperatures mostly holding up a little bit above freezing. Into the weekend, it's a messy mix. Again, western Scotland probably doing OK for dry and bright weather. Eastern Scotland stays soggy. And for the rest of us, it's a case of some dry and bright spells, but also more showers. You can see the low pressure there. Just spinning showers up and down the land. Some heavy, some brighter spells in between. Bye for now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I'm doing this for the blue light personnel. And
I'm just saying that's the police. That is all military personnel, fire and rescue,
nurses,
the prison wardens. You know, so you're doing very well there.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I think they deserve, and in a moment where we have a very difficult economic climate, you know, I think that is the best thing I could do. And it's not for one day, it's for the rest of my working life.
So, but they have, is there a free day today? Or so what's happening today specifically?
Today, there is a lunch for hundreds of service personnel in Minori, in Hatch End, and it's free meals for all of them.
That's lovely.
As a sign of gratitude.
And then going forward, it's a 15% discount.
That's correct.
Put it in context for people who just sort of, to give a bit of history about who you are and who you've worked with and whatever. You began, was it the Savoy Hotel in London?
I started at the Savoy.
Did you rub shoulders with anybody famous there?
Oh, a lot. Charlie Chaplin, Sophia Loren, Anthony Quinn. I could go on and on and on. But my very favourite was Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
That must have mean. I mean, he's a world icon, really. I mean, to have met him and.
It's not met them. I built up an amazing relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So what did you do? Were you a restaurant owner there, or were you working as a chef there?
No. It's funny. I was a night luggage porter.
Oh, really?
And it was my choice to be a night.
You weren't a chef.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 6th of February. I'm Dawn Needham and...
I'm Tom Harwood. Now, Labour's civil war deepens as Angela Rayner tells allies she's ready to run, with MPs warning Sir Keir Starmer's premiership is hanging by a thread. This after the Mandelson revolt.
And it could be weeks before we hear the full extent of what the PM knew about the vetting of Peter Mandelson. There are high tens of thousands of documents being sifted through in the building behind me.
And GB News can exclusively reveal a violent asylum seeker is on the run after being convicted of attacking security guards at a former RAF base used to house migrants.
Elsewhere, jailed baby-killing nurse Lucy Letby is under the round-the-clock watch after becoming a target in prison. This following a Netflix documentary, with staff stepping up checks amid fears for her safety.
And GB News is championing Britain's world-class whisky industry ahead of International Scotch Whisky Day. We'll be live, not us personally, but unfortunately Tony is there for us, at the Glen Turret Distillery.
Now, if you come to a whisky distillery like Glen Turret, you've never had a bad dram. You can take my word on that. But unfortunately, there are people out there that are looking to scam people with casks, and they're also looking to produce fake bottles. Now, we'll be hearing from Lindsay Lowe from the Scotch Whisky Association about just how much of a threat this poses to Scotland's national drink.
I think Tony's doing an absolutely sterling shift there.
He's been pushing himself to the limit since the breakfast show, which is like 7 hours ago.
I just love how Scotland's national drink is whiskey. It's a very strong national drink. I mean, England's national drink is clearly tea, which is just a little bit more pathetic.
Actually, yeah. Although you could always put your whiskey in your tea, and then that...
Scotch?
Not that we'd do that, obviously.
No, isn't that an Irish thing? Or is that coffee?
Irish coffee.
Irish
yes,
coffee is
indeed,
with whiskey.
yeah. But we are...
But then again, an Irish anything is just with alcohol, isn't it?
Very probably, yes.
There's an old joke in Parliament because in Central Lobby, which incidentally is where we get our term lobbying from, but Central Lobby is sort of the central bit of Parliament, and you've got the House of Commons that way, the House of Lords that way, the exit that way, and the committee corridor that way, but also the bars that way. And above each of these entrances is a patron saint. Now, St Patrick for Ireland is above the exit, which is quite appropriate, but St Andrew from Scotland is above the route to the bars. Now, the old joke is that these two could have been swapped around the time of sort of 2015, but yeah, I won't go into the... I mean, St David for Wales is above the Commons because the Welsh are very chatty. St George for England is over to the Lords because everyone's pompous.
And that was today's Tom Tangent, brought to you on behalf of Good Afternoon Britain. You can thank me later. He's doing a whiteboard later as well. You really don't want to miss that one because it does involve... Oh, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you.
I've been doing research for my whiteboard. I mean, reams and reams of research. So this is going to be a very, very well-researched and thought-through silly drawing.
Yeah. So, and the show is all downhill until we get to the whiteboard moment, which involves downhill skiing.
Yeah, ski jumping even.
Kind of.
But before... Sorry, we've been whittering on for quite a bit. There is a serious lot of news to get to. Well, if you'd like to witter on alongside us, gbnews.com/your say is the box to witter in. But we'll get to all of the news, witter and otherwise, after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. It's just gone 1 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. The top story this afternoon, Sir Keir Starmer remains under pressure from within Labour ranks as he seeks to steady the ship amid widespread anger over the Lord Mandelson scandal. The Prime Minister has apologised to Jeffrey Epstein's victims for believing the peer's lies about his relationship with the paedophile financier. Meanwhile, former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as Labour leader. Opposition leaders Kemi Badenoch and Sir Ed Davey have now called for a vote of no confidence in the Labour Party leader, while Reform UK leader Nigel Farage described the Prime Minister's apology as weak. Labour Minister Mike Tapp spoke to GB News earlier about his faith in the Prime Minister.
With absolute respect to Baroness Harman, she hasn't seen the files. Neither have I, neither have the public. But I do know that Keir Starmer's a good man. I do know that he means it when he apologises, and I also know that he's working hard with Jess Phillips, for example, to ensure that we reduce violence against women and girls and make the country safer for them. So I trust the Prime Minister on this, and I'm confident that when these files are released, the public will agree with that.
An inquiry into the deadliest channel crossing on record concluded that small boat crossings must end, warning that some of the 30 people who died could have been saved. The independent probe found systemic failures, missed distress calls and chronic staff shortages in the UK's maritime response. Meanwhile, the report has made 18 recommendations to prevent another disaster. All three African countries Britain threatened with Trump-style visa sanctions have now agreed to cooperate over the return of illegal migrants. More than 3,000 migrants and foreign criminals from Namibia, Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo will now have their deportations fast-tracked. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave them a month to start cooperating or face a sliding scale of penalties that would have culminated in a ban on visas for their citizens. The police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year, GB News can disclose. The investigations are assessing if South Yorkshire Police was involved in online harassment, stalking and leaking personal information about the victim. In response, South Yorkshire Police said that we are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation. Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer's flagship Chagos Islands bill has been pulled from the parliamentary calendar. That's as pressure grows on the Prime Minister to rethink plans to hand sovereignty to Mauritius. Labour peer Lord Kempsell confirmed that the legislation will not return to the Commons before MPs leave for recess on February the 12th. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has appeared to soften his stance on the deal, saying that Sir Keir made the best agreement he could following what he described as productive talks over the UK-US military base on Diego Garcia. Over to Europe. In Portugal, flooding continues across several regions after weeks of torrential rain linked to a so-called storm train battering the Iberian Peninsula. Large parts of the town of Alcazar do Sal remain underwater for a third day, while in Porto, the River Douro has burst its banks, flooding riverside areas. The government has extended a state of calamity in 69 municipalities until mid-February. That's as civil protection officials warn multiple rivers remain at risk of significant flooding. The cost of a TV licence will rise to £180 from April this year. The increase is in line with inflation and follows the terms of the 2022 licence fee settlement. It comes as the government continues its review of the BBC's charter, aimed at ensuring the broadcaster is sustainably funded, delivers value for money and maintains public trust through impartial reporting. And preparations are underway in Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony tonight. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan's San Siro Stadium. Live pictures on your screen now, which will provide the stage for the main part of a ceremony tonight, where US pop singer Mariah Carey and Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli will perform. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters are gathering to oppose the presence of US ICE agents and the closure of schools and streets in the city ahead of the opening tonight. The event will combine elements from both co-hosts, Cortina and Milan, seeking to reflect both city and mountain life. And of course, we wish Team GB all the very best. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More in half an hour, but first, let's check in on the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.358 and €1.152. The price of gold is £3,595.29 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 1,324 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 9 minutes past 1. And the former Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, is reportedly ready to launch a leadership campaign after the Prime Minister is left fighting for his premiership.
Yes, this is the same MP who just 5 months ago resigned from her government role over that tax scandal involving unpaid stamp duty, or underpaid stamp duty, rather.
Well, it comes after Sir Keir Starmer apologised and expressed regret in appointing Peter Mandelson, the friend of the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, as our ambassador in Washington, D.C.
So joining us now is GB News political editor, the wonderful Christopher Hope. Christopher, bring us up to speed. The world of politics has gone even more madder than usual.
Yeah, it is a bit mad, isn't it, Dawn? I just take you back to a letter from Laurie Magnus. Now, no one outside my world should know who he is, but he's the kind of morals, the ethics advisor to the Prime Minister. He said of Angela Rayner in a letter sent 5 months ago today, he said this, that her failure to settle her stamp duty land tax bill at the correct level meant that she cannot be considered to have met the highest standards of proper conduct in the ministerial code, and that's why indeed she lost her job as Deputy Prime Minister and of course Housing Secretary. 5 months ago, she wasn't acceptable. She couldn't really hang on to her job. She broke the ministerial code. So why on earth are MPs now thinking she can replace the guy who lives behind me, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister? What's she done in those 5 months? By all accounts, reports say, she hasn't even paid off the bill she avoided. She said inadvertently, she got the advice that she thought she was doing the right thing. Well, she wasn't, according to the PM's ethics advisor. How will it make Laurie Magnus feel if Angela Rayner comes in to replace her? Lots of questions, I think, which slightly shoot that one down, I think. I know she's said to have raised £1 million, and she said she's ready to go, reportedly, according to the Daily Mail, to other MPs. But just look at the facts here. 5 months ago, she fell short of the highest standards of proper conduct. How is it even conceivable she can replace Sir Keir Starmer presently? But he's in some trouble because we've learned today that there are high tens of thousands of documents being leafed through by officials working for the Cabinet Office just to my left and the PM behind me before they can even get near to sending some of that information to the Intelligence and Security Committee in Parliament to work out what can be held back on national security grounds. This means it will go on for a number of weeks. The pain goes on for the Prime Minister. We saw that with Partygate, with the Sue Gray report. The endless drip of information will weaken him. But I just don't see presently how someone like Angela Rayner can replace him. And I think that indeed is what keeping Sir Keir Starmer in office, the absence really of a clear candidate who can replace him. Don't forget, it's down to the members of the party, several hundred thousand of them, who decide. It's not clear they'd want Wes Streeting. He's a great communicator, but what's his story? How will the story change of this government, and how will it be different under Wes Streeting? Lots of questions about who to replace him with, and that's why I think lots of MPs aren't really going public in number about replacing Sir Keir Starmer.
Christopher, how much do you think Angela Rayner did herself got a lot of brownie points by leading that backbench rebellion on Wednesday that forced Keir Starmer into another U-turn and actually publishing the documents relating to Mandelson?
Yes, a lot, and she has a moral force amongst backbenchers, and indeed her story is extremely creditable. She left school with one CSE aged 16. I think she was pregnant with her first child, and she pulled herself up through union ranks to becoming the Deputy Prime Minister. That is an extraordinary story of achievement, of resilience, of determination, no question. But just 5 months ago, she was judged to have broken the ministerial code. She failed to perform to the highest standards of proper conduct. So why on earth is she able to even think about being replacing Sir Keir Starmer, if that's what she said to an MP? That's why I found surprising. But she does have this moral force on the backbenches, and what she says matters. Sir Keir Starmer has said recently, I want to bring her back in. I just can't see that happening in the short term.
Although it is interesting, because of course Wes Streeting sort of grew up in a council house, had family members in prison, grew up in a very, very poor family, but then went to Cambridge University. So everyone remembers that Wes Streeting went to Cambridge University and thinks that he's posh, whereas actually that's very, very far from the truth. He's just smart.
And a great communicator, and he comes on GBNews. Not all of these people we're talking about appear on our channel, so they don't want to talk to our viewers for whatever reason. Wes Streeting will talk to our viewers. He wants to take the fight to our viewers. Shabana Mahmood is another one. These are people, I think, who understand the power of that vote in 2016, the Brexit referendum. They're trying. Wes Streeting's ripped up NHS England and taking all power back to him as the Health Secretary. Shabana Mahmood is scrapping these police and crime commissioners and giving her the right to sack failing chief constables. That's also right, I think. So they understand where politics has gone in the past 10 years, and they engage with our viewers, and that's to their credit. I just can't see who is the obvious standout candidate to replace Keir Starmer, and that will keep him in post. And I think his issue is he's lost the confidence of so many backbench Tory, Labour and Tories, but certainly Labour MPs. They feel that, you know, to admit in Parliament that you knew about elements of that relationship between Epstein and Mandelson. Of course, it's all in public domain, but to say that in Parliament almost concentrated minds on Wednesday, and that's why I think Labour MPs go back to see their voters, their constituents, their members this weekend, and they'll get their ears chewed off by those members who are concerned about what on earth is their PM doing. While I've got you, one other thing today, I think it's worth noting politically how Labour have chosen not to freeze the BBC licence. It's rising to £180 from April. They say they're taking other measures to tackle the cost of living crisis. They're freezing rail fares, they're increasing the pensions triple lock, they're taking 150 quid off energy bills from April. But it's just fascinating, I think, that the Tories did do that to support people on lower incomes. Labour aren't doing it.
Very interesting. Just before we let you go, really no time at all, but Chopper, I hear you've got two particularly stellar guests on your podcast this week.
Yes, it was a case of Avengers Assemble. I've got the brilliant Deputy Political Editor, what's he called again? Oh yeah, Tom Harwood. He's on our Chopper's Political Podcast this week. And also Catherine Forster, our Chief Political Correspondent. We're just going through what on earth has happened this week and what does it mean for Sir Keir Starmer. And Tom, make sure you remind Dawn I do a podcast, and it's called Chopper's Political Podcast.
I know she likes to hear it. Christopher Hope, thanks indeed, live from Downing Street.
Thank you. OK, he does have a podcast out, evidently.
He does.
Yeah, I don't know who's on. I'm not sure who's on it this week,
Very good one this week.
Okay.
Well, time for a brand new Great British giveaway now, and your chance to get summer sorted with a luxury £10,000 holiday for two.
And £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And here's all the details.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. You could be here exploring the magic of Egypt on a Nile River cruise. Or choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. And because they have over 40 years experience with handcrafted tours, you'll be safe in the knowledge that every step of the journey will be planned with you in mind. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash, which you'll be able to spend however you like this year. So what are you waiting for?
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, this is, of course, Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and what a week it's been. I think Friday programmes are sometimes a very good moment to take stock and just realise what on earth has happened in our politics in the last 5 days.
Well, I've actually, because we've been doing that deep dive into all of the Epstein files, and I just feel, I mean, I put it on social media, I just honestly wanted to bleach my brain after going through it.
All of the photographs.
Just horrendous.
Yeah.
It's worse. It's worse than you're seeing it. Oh, you can have a look as well yourself online, obviously. But it's worse than the stuff you're seeing in your newspapers. I mean, this is rich, powerful, influential men, and the women and the girls that were their victims. Honestly, it makes you feel ill. It really does. So the fact that our government are now caught up in this in such a way, and as Chopper was saying just now, you know, OK, they're sifting through all the documents, all the messages and all the emails that Mandelson sent to people in power in the government, but we're not going to know the results of that.
No, not for a while.
For a while.
Although, because the government lost, and let's not forget, this is a government with a majority of 160.
Yeah.
The government lost on Wednesday. And that means...
Thanks to Angela Rayner.
Thanks to Angela Rayner, thanks to Kemi Badenoch, thanks to actually a lot of strong women.
Women, yeah.
That the government lost, meaning Number 10 and the Cabinet Office cannot control the disclosure of these documents now. This is going to be in the hands of Parliament. So Keir Starmer is going to be pretty worried, actually, about which documents will come out. And what did he say? When he was given all of the vetting, when he was given the information about Peter Mandelson, did he disregard it?
No.
Did he think that this was inconvenient but not a block in the road? I mean, we will find out.
Good. Questions to answer, and we want those answers sooner rather than later.
Well, lots more still to come on today's programme.
Yes, another controversial case. Is Lucy Letby innocent, and has the new Netflix documentary changed the picture? Change what you think about this particular case. We'll look at all the fresh claims and why her case is back in the spotlight, but after the break.
Yes, a convicted asylum seeker is on the run after attacking security guards at a former RAF migrant site. The police are now hunting him down.
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News and Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 24 minutes past 1.
Yes, and a violent asylum seeker is on the run after he was convicted on 2 counts of assault at a former Essex military base used to house asylum seekers.
Well, the convicted attacker failed to appear in court this week, and the Home Office say they are assisting police to track down this culprit.
Well, joining us now with the latest, of course, on this story is GB News Home and Security, the wonderful Mark White. Mark, another day, another horror story involving an asylum seeker.
Yes,
illegal migrant.
Absolutely. This man, a Syrian national, Adnani Mohammed, had arrived in the UK by small boat in January 2024, but then went on to commit this very brutal attack on 2 security officers at the Wethersfield migrant camp near Braintree, just 4 months after arriving here on a small boat. He'd been housed at this camp. That's him there. He was one of around 800 young male asylum seekers at the camp at that time. Now, we believe that he'd since moved on from this camp into dispersed accommodation outside of the Essex area. He is at large, though, having not appeared at court this week when this case finally reached court, the case of the assault on these 2 security guards. And he was found guilty in his absence of 2 counts of assault by beating. The images you're looking there are damage to a security office at Wethersfield, which we're told was committed by this young man in the weeks before this assault took place. So he was found guilty in his absence. An arrest warrant has now been issued, but at this stage, they don't know where he is. There's an address outside the Essex Police Force area, which is linked to him, but given that he's not appeared in court, it's, I think, unlikely that he'll be at that address as well. But as I say, it's a very concerning incident, and we've had a statement from the Home Office. A spokesperson said we're assisting the police to track down this individual. We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws, it says. We're reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeals system so we can scale up deportations. And the statement concludes by saying all foreign national offenders who receive a prison sentence in the UK are referred for deportation at the earliest opportunity.
Mark, the problem here, right, is that this is not going to be an isolated incident. There are many different camps of hundreds of young men, many of whom who have come from areas in the world where they were bathed in violence through their adolescence. This is a legitimate concern for local residents near these places, which, let's remember, are not secure. People can come and go as they like. And in this case, Mark, you were saying this individual was drunk. I mean, he had access to alcohol. People coming and going as they like with alcohol and God knows what. I mean, this is a real concern.
Yeah, where it's a former army base or it's an asylum hotel or other dispersed accommodation, there are many reports of incidents of violence and criminality linked now to asylum seekers, because effectively you've got large groups of bored young men with nothing to do. As you say, all of the other factors that feed into this, where they've come from, the cultures they've come from, and that often leads to levels of increased criminality that we're only now really seeing going through our court system. And that's why every single week there are multiple cases that we report on this channel of individuals, asylum seekers and other migrants, either illegal or not, involved in criminality. Now, this young man, as you say, yes, he had a history of violent outbursts at Wethersfield in the short period of time he was staying there. He was someone who drank alcohol, which added apparently to his violent propensities. He had been drinking on the evening that the assault took place. He'd asked for a doctor, but then later on assaulted these two security guards, headbutting them, knocking them over, kicking them while they were on the ground. It was, according to witnesses, really quite a brutal assault. So he was found guilty in his absence because he wasn't in court. There was no legal defence team for him because they had withdrawn from this case some time earlier. So the magistrate, after finding him guilty in absentia, has now issued this arrest warrant. And the Home Office say they are working with the police to try to find this individual.
Meanwhile, we have no idea where. We don't even know really what his age is. We know nothing about him, as we do know so little about so many of these young men that come over here.
His age might be out there. We don't have that on record. You can see he looks like a relatively young man. And the issue is now, are there people out there who are friends with him, who know that he is at large now and who are harbouring this individual? And given that he has, potential for violence, he has committed violent assaults on these two security guards, as well as been involved in other violent incidents, the concern has to be if law enforcement are trying to catch up with him, if members of the public spot him, that, he could turn violent again. This is the concern.
And absolutely terrific. And the thing from the Home Office statement that gets me is we will not allow these people to exploit our laws. They exploited them by getting into the country in the first place. And you still let them roam around.
Well, this is it. I mean, this is a perfect example of a case that highlights the concerns that many have about just who's coming across the channel and how much of a potential threat they pose here, because nobody knows
from this individual what his history was, whether he'd been involved in criminality in Syria. And of course, he came from Syria, where at the best of times, the sort of record keeping for those involved in criminality is probably not as robust as it is, well, definitely not as robust as it is in this country. And regardless of that, people throw away their documentation. So you never see the full background of an individual, who they are, and it hampers the ability of law enforcement here to get a handle on them, to assess the risk before putting them into the asylum system.
Well, Mark White, thanks indeed for bringing us this story. And, of course, the manhunt continues.
OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. There's lots more coming up on today's show, but first, it's your latest headlines.
Very good afternoon. These are the headlines just after 1:30. Sir Keir Starmer remains under pressure from within Labour ranks as he seeks to steady the ship amid widespread anger over the Lord Mandelson scandal. Meanwhile, former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as Labour leader. The police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year. In response, South Yorkshire Police said that we are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation. The cost of a TV licence will rise to £180 from April this year. The increase is in line with inflation and follows the terms of the 2022 licence fee settlement. In Portugal, flooding continues across several regions after weeks of torrential rain linked to a so-called storm train battering the Iberian Peninsula. The government has extended a state of calamity in 69 municipalities until mid-February. That's as civil protection officials warn that multiple rivers remain at risk of significant flooding. And preparations are underway in Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony tonight. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan's San Siro Stadium. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters are gathering to oppose the presence of US ICE agents in the Italian city. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More on those stories at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 34 minutes past 1, and there's lots more coming up on today's programme.
There really is, asking, is Lucy Letby innocent, and has the new Netflix documentary changed your mind about the nurse? We'll look at the fresh claims and why her case is back in the spotlight.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Another wet one for most places today. Still quite a cold wind blowing in off the North Sea. It is turning a little brighter in the south and parts of western Scotland. Again, doing OK for dry and bright weather. But for most of us, low pressure means more cloud and further outbreaks of rain. We've seen some hill snow across the Pennines. That's turning more and more to rain, but still some snow falling over the tops of the mountains in parts of eastern Scotland. Some of the higher routes here still being affected by that, but turning again here also more to rain. Bands of rain moving northwards, something a little bit brighter across parts of the south where we might reach 11 or perhaps even 12 Celsius in one or two places, but certainly feeling cold on these North Sea coasts with the rain and that persistent and fairly nagging wind. As I mentioned, something a bit drier and brighter across the south into this evening. Still a few showers here and there, but generally, I say, brightening up a little bit, but staying wet over North Wales and Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here. Expecting some further disruption. Stays wet too across northeast England. Further snow on the tops of the mountains. But again, with that easterly wind, it's western Scotland doing best for a bit of shelter. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. This main zone of rain pushes northwards, the snow turning more and more to rain over the hills of eastern Scotland. But then another zone of heavy showers comes into parts of the southwest, something a little bit drier in between, maybe some clearer skies. That easterly wind becomes confined to eastern Scotland. Slight change in wind direction over northeast England. Temperatures mostly holding up a little bit above freezing. Into the weekend, it's a messy mix. Again, Western Scotland probably doing OK for dry and bright weather. Eastern Scotland stays soggy. And for the rest of us, it's a case of some dry and bright spells, but also more showers. You can see the low pressure there. Just spinning showers up and down the land. Some heavy, some brighter spells in between. Bye for now.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A8 is partly blocked eastbound at Langbank due to a broken down vehicle. The M1 southbound has a collision between junction 13 and junction 12 with 2 of 3 lanes closed. In Derbyshire, the A50 westbound is down to 1 lane between the A515 and the A518 after a crash. Also, the M3 westbound has long delays between junction 2 and junction 3 with 2 lanes closed. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report major disruption, with reduced services between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is, I know this annoys you, that's why I'm going to do it, 37 minutes past 1.
That's bang on. Bang on. Well, Netflix's new documentary, The Investigation of Lucy Letby, raises fresh questions about the shocking case of the former neonatal baby-killing nurse.
Yeah, she was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 7 others between June 2015 and 2016.
Well, the new film features exclusive interviews with experts and lawyers representing both sides of the fresh argument over her case, many of whom are convinced she's innocent.
But could Letby be a victim of one of the worst miscarriages of justice?
Well, we're joined now by the writer Christopher Snowdon, who's extensively looked at this case. Christopher, there seems to be a growing campaign to try and force a retrial here of Lucy Letby.
Yeah, there is, but there's a process to go through, and I think it's very unlikely that Lucy Letby will get to the Court of Appeal, let alone win in the Court of Appeal. There's really 2 reasons for that. One is she hasn't waived privilege, which really she needs to do, because essentially her defence now is that she was poorly advised in her first trial. She should have called some expert witnesses, medical experts, to try and back up some of her own theories about what happened, or to knock down the prosecution theories. In order to prove to the Court of Appeal that she was let down, she's going to have to waive privilege, which means she's going to have to allow all the documents and minutes and notes taken in her conversations with a previous KC, Ben Myers. She hasn't done that. She's had every opportunity to do that. If she doesn't do that, then I don't think the Court of Appeal will look at it at all. But if she does do that, I suspect actually it will turn out that the decision not to call any medical witnesses was a tactical decision, because she felt that those medical experts weren't really going to support her case and indeed would make things worse for her. So that's, well, I will leave it at that. Actually, that's I think the principal reason, apart from the fact that even if I'm wrong about that, and maybe these documents will show that she was let down, then the actual appeal itself, based on Shuli's panel of so-called international experts, a huge amount of what they're claiming, their own theories for what happened in the hospital in that period, have already been tested in court. They don't seem to be aware that a lot of what they're saying is actually what Letby herself said at the time. These theories were tested and rebutted. So the Court of Appeal needs new evidence, and they haven't got very much evidence that's new to look at.
And Christopher, she does have a lot of medical experts on her side saying that this could be circumstantial. She happened to be the nurse on duty, but these were very, very poorly babies. There were lots of other reasons they could have died.
Yeah, and again, that was tested in court. This case went on for a very, very long time. It's not like she had no defence at all. Her Casey actually put up quite a good fight for her. And of course, these arguments were made. The reason she called a plumber was because there was this theory that there was sewage in the ward, and that was causing the deaths. That was thrown out and not accepted by the jury. A huge number of arguments on both sides were put about during this case, and you can't just repackage them again, get some different people from around the world, cherry pick some other experts who happen to be on her side, and say we've got new evidence. It's not new evidence.
But the pro-Lucy Letby sort of argument all started with a bunch of statisticians putting forward something called the Texas sharpshooter argument. Now, to be very concise about this, I mean, if you're looking at a board that's been shot sort of almost randomly by lots of bullets, after those bullets have been shot, you can then draw on your target and make it look like they centred upon a target. The argument here is that have they just picked the babies that happened to be ill, because there were more babies that died than those that were used in this case. What do you say to that sort of statistical argument?
Well, you're right. That was the initial kind of thing that got this whole pro-Letby movement going. I mean, this is addressed actually in the Netflix documentary itself. You hear the police explain what went on. They didn't start with Letby and then move backwards. You know, why would they? They got Dowie Evans, a paediatrician, to look at the medical notes blind. He didn't know anything about Letby either, and he flagged up a large number of suspicious incidents. And then when the police went back and looked through these incidents, only then did they find that Letby was always present. So, you know, this idea that they just started with Letby and then picked some random deaths and collapses when she happened to be on shift, it's just not true. And also, even if it were true, you still got to prove that these were deaths and suspicious collapses. You know, the mere presence of Letby, of course, is not proof in itself.
Christopher, why are so many people so divided on this case? I mean, it's almost like the Brexit argument. You can't debate it without people shouting at one another from one side or the other. I mean, we have other miscarriages of justice in this country, but this one in particular really, really has got people sucked up in it.
Yeah, I think there are a few different reasons for that. I mean, one of them is that the case itself is extremely complicated. And as you said, it's a circumstantial case. People, I suppose, if they watch too much CSI, are used to everything being solved by DNA evidence or CCTV. And people say, well, no one saw her do anything. Well, not being seen committing a murder is kind of page one of the murderer's guide. It's not that unusual for murderers to want to kill people in private. So, look, she doesn't look the type, I suppose you could argue. And there isn't that smoking gun, although I would argue actually the incident evidence is as close to a smoking gun as you're going to get. And it's a vastly complicated case. And so people are able to make all sorts of claims about it. And there's been a massive amount of noise in the last 18 months, most of which can be debunked. But it takes a huge amount of effort to debunk all this stuff. It's a coordinated campaign. Letby literally has a PR company working for her to try and pressurize the CCRC into at least pushing this over to the Court of Appeal.
Christopher, she has a PR company working for... Is that what's behind a lot of the stories that we're seeing in the papers?
Yeah, there was a front page pro-Letby story in The Sun last week, and her PR company actually boasted about getting it there on Twitter.
Yeah, wow. Saw that. And obviously, Krisha, just finally and quickly, let's not forget that while we're sitting here talking about the pros and cons of the case, and it's on the front page of our newspapers via a PR agency, there are 7 families that have lost babies. We need to, this is constantly opening those wounds for them.
It is, and I was pleased in a way to see that one of the mothers is in the Netflix documentary and anonymised and giving her opinion. Look, all the parents in this case, as far as I can tell, certainly the ones who've spoken out in any way at all, are absolutely convinced of Letby's guilt. They were there in the court. They know what kind of state their children were in. They were not all deteriorating and incredibly weak and had one foot in the grave, as it were. So they know a lot more about this case than a lot of people who are claiming she's innocent.
Okay.
Christopher, thank you.
This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come on today's programme.
Yeah, it's time for a wee dram of something special. We're celebrating British whiskey live from the distillery and asking what's threatening our most iconic export.
Well, in the meantime, if you'd like to export yourself, here's the weather in Europe.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Further very heavy rain and strong winds in Spain and Portugal, likely to cause more flooding problems here throughout the weekend. Another spell of very heavy rain, especially across the south of Spain, where river levels are already running exceptionally high. There'll be some showers heading into Italy, also looking a little drier for Greece on Saturday with some sunny spells here, and we'll continue to see some sunshine across the Canaries through the weekend and into the early part of next week, with temperatures rising a little bit here too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The RECPD, the charity that we're here to sort of raise awareness of today, helps service men and women throughout their careers, both while they're in the army and whilst they're and when they decide to leave the army as well. So it could help a soldier upskill themselves and sort of understanding more about their trade or their craft or whatever their speciality is within the army, or it could help a service personnel or a veteran or any of their families if they need sort of a bit of support when they leave the forces to gain an extra qualification and help them into jobs work. So it's really a sort of end-to-end sort of support.
So, Holly, in particular, because, you know, you don't hear of so many women joining the armed forces.
Absolutely.
What made you join? What is it you love about it?
There are so many opportunities within the army, particularly adventurous training, going out and doing something that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, new challenges, the people that you spend your time with, the kind of community, the friends and the family that you build. But again, you know, linking back to the charity, the opportunities that you can gain through additional qualifications, things that can push you forward in your career, looking beyond the army and stuff. So, yeah, essentially there are a realm of opportunities available to us throughout the army.
All of which is very important, Holly, because I'm noticing adverts at the cinema and on TV and things about it's not only, it's how you attract young people like yourselves into the forces these days. What makes it attractive and what can you leave with? What can the forces do for you? So what you can do for the forces, but what can they do for you?
So this whole charity and the wider forces in general aim to help service personnel and the community join well, serve well and leave well. You will be leaving the army with qualifications or with the ability to get qualifications, which will help you get into further employment.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is coming up to 10 to 2 and we have some breaking news for you.
Well, joining us with that news is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White.
This is with regard to the manhunt for Adnani Mohammed, the asylum seeker who was found guilty in his absence of assaulting these two security guards at Wethersfield migrant camp in Essex. An arrest warrant was issued for him when he didn't show up for his court case this week. He has now been recaptured. Essex police have been in touch to say that their colleagues in Lancashire have made an arrest today, that this Syrian national is now back in custody and will be put before the courts for sentencing at the earliest possible opportunity. So an arrest warrant had been issued 2 days ago when he did not appear at Colchester Magistrates Court in connection with the assault case against him. He was found guilty in his absence to the brutal attack on two security guards at the Wethersfield camp. That was in April of 2024, just 4 months, incidentally, after he arrived on a small boat across the English Channel and was housed along with some 800 other young migrant men in that camp. A number of violent incidents that were linked to this individual. However, the assault on the 2 guards is what he was convicted of. The Home Office have said previously that they were working with the police to try to ensure this man was recaptured, and that they would work to remove anyone from the country who was convicted and jailed in connection with criminality. I think we still obviously have to have the sentence, but a violent attack, the fact that he then went on the run and never showed up for his court case, will all be aggravating circumstances. So the likelihood is that there may well be a jail term attached to these 2 assaults, in which case the Home Office would move to expedite his removal, his deportation from the UK.
Yeah. Do we know where he was captured, where he was found?
Just in the Lancashire police force area, as they clearly are the force that affected that arrest. But it's perfectly possible, you know, you go to somewhere like Wethersfield for a few months, 6 months or so, and then would be moved on to dispersal accommodation. And as we know, that could be absolutely anywhere in the country. This is why it was, for the last couple of days, obviously, a nationwide manhunt in terms of trying to track him down. Now, it may be that they tracked him down to the area where he was living, so it wasn't that complex a process, but we don't have those details yet, just that it was Lancashire police colleagues who assisted Essex police in arresting this individual today.
And this dispersal accommodation is the bit that gets me. He could have been moved anywhere in the country, in a house at the end of the street you live in, and you wouldn't have known about it. You wouldn't know who he was, why he was there, and we know he's a violent criminal.
Well, absolutely. He's now convicted of the violent assault of 2 security guards. So, yes, absolutely. It all just factors into the concerns that people have about who's crossing the channel, how much do we know about them, and are we being properly protected from people that could be violent?
Well, Mark White, thank you very much for that breaking news bringing us. But now on a slightly lighter note, it's International Scotch Whisky Day right around the corner, and what better way to celebrate than champion the industry?
So we have sent Tony Maguire to a distillery. Why not? Here he is, Tony.
Hello, good afternoon. We're here at Glenturret Distillery and have a little look in the shop here. We've got this book filled to the brim of stories of history and heritage, everything that ever was really about Scotch whisky. And unfortunately, people around the world try and capitalise on that and take advantage of the legacy and history of Scotch whisky. To tell us a little bit more from the Scotch Whisky Association, Lindsay Lowe. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, John.
Tell me a little bit, first of all, let's get a grounding here. What makes Scotch Scotch?
Well, first of all, and most importantly, Scotch whisky must be made and aged here in Scotland, but it goes beyond that. So, for example, it must be aged in oak barrels here for a minimum of 3 years. It can't contain any added flavourings. It must have a minimum strength of 40%. Quite a long list of requirements that makes Scotch whisky unique to Scotland.
And of course, it must be delicious in every glass and every tasting, doesn't it? Now, around the world, you know, we hear about fakes, we hear about counterfeits. How do people take advantage of Scotland? We see a lot of Scottish-style whiskies out there, and that's where you come in.
Well, absolutely. So the Scotch Whisky Association, on behalf of the industry, is there to protect the geographical indication Scotch whisky. So sometimes we're dealing with products that are called Scotch whisky when they're not. For example, they've not been aged. In other places, people are trying to take advantage of our culture. They might be using tartan, they might be showing bagpipers, using the words Glen, Mook, all these sort of things to try and confuse people into thinking that what they're drinking is Scotch when it certainly isn't.
Now, it's quite common. We see, obviously, a lot of us go on holiday and we see bottles of whiskey and we want to bring them home. Sometimes they even look unusual, and that's why we want to, people want to bring them home. But if somebody thinks that they're bringing home not the genuine article of an established distillery, what kind of things are they looking out for?
Well, first of all, I can reassure everyone that if you're buying your Scotch whisky from a normal retail channel, duty-free, then the chances of coming across a fake are tiny, infinitesimal, because they have very strong controls. And it's also worth noting that all brands of Scotch whisky must be verified by UK Customs, HMRC, and they actually operate a website. You can go on that, you can search for the brand, and if it appears on the list and it shows who makes it, then you can be satisfied that it's a genuine product.
Now, we're kind of out of time now, but I mean, it sounds like your legal department must be really, really busy. How many cases is it you have going at any time?
So worldwide, we're looking at maybe 50 active cases and around about 300 trademark oppositions a year.
Wow, 50 active cases, so very worth protecting Scotch whisky. We need to protect it always, I think.
We need to protect it.
Absolutely, we do
Tony,
need to protect it, Tony, and
yeah.
Cheers to that, because
Cheers,
we've
Tony.
managed to grab some Scotch whisky of our own, and we've got it here in our glasses.
Yes.
Our tea mugs have magically transported themselves to being Scotch
cheers,
whisky.
Tony, and well done. And we've got another hour to go, so anything could happen. So
oh God, no.
You really don't want to go too far.
Yeah,
because
we're not going to be able to read the autocue after this.
Stay
with us.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 6th of February. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson. And we have some breaking news for you. A violent asylum seeker is arrested after going on the run from the RAF base in Wethersfield. Mark White has a story for us.
Well, Adnani Mohammed, who was found guilty of assaulting 2 security staff at Wethersfield, has now been arrested by Lancashire police. He'll be put before the courts for sentencing.
Elsewhere, Labour's civil war deepens as Angela Rayner tells allies she's ready to stand, with MPs warning Sir Keir Starmer's premiership is hanging by a thread, all of course after the Mandelson revolt.
And US news anchor Savannah Guthrie makes a plea for her mum's safe return almost 1 week after the 84-year-old first went missing.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
Elsewhere, GB News is championing Britain's world-class whisky industry ahead of International Scotch Whisky Day. We'll be live at the Glenturret Distillery.
So we are really doing our bit for Scotch Whisky Day,
Absolutely.
aren't we? This is in the name of research, obviously. We have to put it to the test. And we have roped our own resident Scots person into the...
Scots person.
Scots person.
Scottish individual.
Scottish individual. Onto the news floor with us. Mark, to give us your opinion of the whisky.
Well, you haven't roped me and you haven't given me anything.
Do you want to
there you go, Mark. It's a Friday.
Lovely.
OK, so but you could tell just from sitting there and getting the whiff of the fumes as to what that was, couldn't you?
No.
You said you could during the break.
You said it was a blend.
You said
yes, it's blended whiskey, whatever, but...
see how...
you know, I'm not denigrating blended whiskey. I like it. Grouse and Bell's and Johnny Walker Black Label.
Other brands are available. So what is the relationship? Why is the relationship so important for Scottish people and whiskey?
What... The relationship...
Mark had no idea we'd be asking this, by the way.
We're interviewing
we have
Scottish...
completely put him on the spot, if anything, in quite a xenophobic way.
You're Scottish, you know about whiskey. Talk about whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, it's a national drink, of course it is. But, you know, in the same way that lots of people in Ireland don't drink Guinness,
yes.
You know, there are lots of people in Scotland who don't drink whiskey. I have to break it to you, Dawn.
I think we should next get a Frenchman on. I think we should get a Frenchman on and quiz him about snails. I think we should get an American on, quiz him about burgers. We should get a...
But that would all work, though.
A Welshman on, grill him about sheep.
No, you really have gone too far.
What do you mean?
But no, anyway. But it is a very nice whiskey, and it is a good industry. I mean, obviously, we sell a lot of whiskey to China, even more now, obviously.
Yes, absolutely, and this is one of Keir Starmer's big wins. Not eliminating the tariffs, but reducing the tariffs.
And when you say big win, it was like a kind of a little win.
When I say big win, I really am overstating. I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, to say the least.
That's not like you, Tom. In any case, we do have lots of serious stuff coming up in the show as well, and obviously let us know your thoughts on all the stories we are discussing. gbnews.com/your say. And Mark, you can stop blushing now, that's fine. Or you can scan the QR code as well if you want.
Dawn, I'm amazed you've been able to read that word for word. That's you clearly haven't drunk enough yet.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Well, it is a Friday, and we do have serious news to come as well. Not just all of our particular proclivities towards, or rather against, whiskey. All to come after your latest news headlines with Sophia.
Tom, thank you. Very good afternoon. It's just gone 2 o'clock. These are your latest headlines. The top story, Sir Keir Starmer remains under pressure from within Labour ranks as he seeks to steady the ship amid widespread anger over the Lord Mandelson scandal. The Prime Minister has apologised to Jeffrey Epstein's victims for believing the peer's lies about his relationship with the paedophile financier. Meanwhile, the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as Labour leader. Opposition leaders Kemi Badenoch and Sir Ed Davey have now called for a vote of no confidence in the Labour Party leader, while Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has described the Prime Minister's apology as weak. Labour Minister Mike Tapp spoke to GB News earlier about his faith in the Prime Minister.
With absolute respect to Baroness Harman, She hasn't seen the files, neither have I, neither have the public. But I do know that Keir Starmer's a good man. I do know that he means it when he apologises. And I also know that he's working hard with Jess Phillips, for example, to ensure that we reduce violence against women and girls and make the country safer for them. So I trust the Prime Minister on this, and I'm confident that when these files are released, the public will agree with that.
An inquiry into the deadliest channel crossing on record concluded that small boat crossings must end, warning some of the 30 people who died could have been saved. The independent probe found systemic failures, missed distress calls and chronic staff shortages in the UK's maritime response. Meanwhile, the report has made 18 recommendations to prevent another disaster. All 3 African countries Britain threatened with Trump-style visa sanctions have now agreed to cooperate over the return of illegal migrants. More than 3,000 migrants and foreign criminals from Namibia, Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo will now have their deportations fast-tracked. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood gave them a month to start cooperating or face a sliding scale of penalties that would have culminated in a ban on visas for their citizens. The police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year. The investigations are assessing if South Yorkshire Police was involved in online harassment, stalking and leaking personal information about the victim. In response, South Yorkshire Police said that we are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's flagship Chagos Islands bill has been pulled from the parliamentary calendar. That's as pressure grows on the Prime Minister to rethink plans to hand sovereignty to Mauritius. Labour peer Lord Kempsell confirmed the legislation will not return to the Commons before MPs leave for recess on February the 12th. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has appeared to soften his stance on the deal, saying Sir Keir made the best agreement he could following what he described as productive talks over the UK-US military base on Diego Garcia. Now, the cost of a TV licence will rise to £180 from April this year. The increase is in line with inflation and follows the terms of the 2022 licence fee settlement. It comes as the government continues its review of the BBC's charter, aimed at ensuring the broadcaster is sustainably funded, delivers value for money and maintains public trust through impartial reporting. And preparations are underway in Milan ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony tonight. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan's San Siro Stadium. Live pictures on your screen, which will provide the stage for the main part of the ceremony tonight, where US pop singer Mariah Carey and Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli will perform. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters are gathering to oppose the presence of US ICE agents and to protest the closure of schools and streets in the city ahead of the opening tonight. The event will combine elements from both co-hosts, Cortina and Milan, seeking to reflect both city and mountain life. And of course, we wish Team GB the very best of luck. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Tatiana Sanchez will have your next update.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.358 and €1.151. The price of gold is £3,624.60 and the FTSE 100's at 1,318 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 2. Now, a violent asylum seeker is on the run. Well, no longer. He's been arrested after he failed to appear at court.
Yeah, breaking news. Joining us now is the latest on this breaking story even is GBNews Home Security Editor Mark White.
This is Adnani Mohammed, who had been on the run, did not appear in court earlier this week when his case was being heard. The violent assault of 2 security staff at the Wethersfield migrant camp near Braintree in Essex. He was found guilty in his absence of 2 counts of assault by beating. This was an incident that unfolded in April of 2024, just 4 months, incidentally, after he arrived in the UK on the back of a small boat. He was being housed at Wethersfield at that time. According to witnesses who gave evidence at his trial in Colchester Magistrates Court earlier this week, they said that, you know, he had violent tendencies, that he had ransacked an office within the camp already. There had been violent outbursts, and then this particular incident, he had been calling, demanding a doctor, and then set about assaulting those 2 security guards. What was described as a very violent attack that took place. And then, of course, it's gone to court. It's taken quite a while, obviously, to get to court, such as the backlog at magistrates and Crown Courts, meaning that these things can be held over. Well, this is finally the case this week going to court, but he never showed, and nor did he have any defence representing him. We're told that the defence withdrew from this case some time ago. So the magistrate, in hearing all the evidence in absentia, decided that he was guilty of those 2 counts and then issued an arrest warrant. Well, he had not been, we understand, staying at Wethersfield recently, as many people who stay at Wethersfield or wherever else, it can be just for a matter of months, then they move on to dispersal accommodation. So he was elsewhere in the country. And then this afternoon, after we broke the news of this arrest warrant being issued, we got the news, Essex Police confirming to us that their colleagues at Lancashire Police had made an arrest. They'd arrested this young Syrian national. He's now in police custody and will be put before the courts at the earliest opportunity to sentence him for those crimes he was convicted of.
And what could that sentence look like? I mean, ultimately, is it going to be a custodial sentence? I know the bar to custodial sentences is incredibly high now in the United Kingdom. And if it's not a custodial sentence, if it's a suspended sentence, as so many of these things are, would he then avoid deportation?
Well, the Home Office is really moving to try to ensure that anybody convicted of what are described as, you know, not the most petty of crimes, in other words, reasonably serious offences, can expect a process to try and remove them. And usually that's if there is a jail term of 12 months or more. Now, it's perfectly possible that he may receive a custodial jail term because it was a violent assault. There were 2 victims. According to witnesses, there were other incidents, other aggravating factors around this case as well. And then another aggravating factor is that he never turned up for his court case, so effectively was on the run. So it's, you know, very possible that there will be a jail term, and if that's the case, then there will be a definite move to remove him. Yeah. But even if there's no jail term, I think that the Home Office might well move to remove him from the country. Now, remember, he's from Syria, and until pretty recently, any move to send someone back to Syria would be resisted by human rights lawyers and activists, saying it's just not safe to do that. They will still try to do this, but there's now an interim government in Syria, and you have Western nations, the UK included, believing that actually it is safe enough for people who are asylum seekers here to start returning back to Syria. And of course, if you are a foreign national offender, as he is now, having committed a crime in this country, it's absolutely safe enough to return you to that country.
Yeah, and it's certainly safe for people in this country. I mean, he's a violent, convicted criminal.
Yeah. I have to say that very often high propensity to violence, responding emotionally rather than intellectually to something, correlates very closely with low propensity to intelligence. I mean, it's possible this guy didn't even know that he was supposed to be in court. I mean, he could just be very, very thick.
He could be. He was apparently drinking at the time as well of the assault, whether that sort of exacerbated his mood and his potential for violent outbursts. But the fact is, the truth of it, that so many people struggle with regard to those coming across the English Channel, is we don't know who the vast majority are. We don't know how potentially violent they might be, how well educated or otherwise they might be, because they hide who they are, often in a bid to ensure that they get the best possible opportunity to stay here. They're schooled by the people smugglers and others to throw away their identifying documents and to invent a more sort of profound backstory in terms of their need for asylum. So in doing that, that means we don't get a handle on exactly who they are and the risk that they might pose.
The only thing we do know is they are criminals because they've broken the law by crossing the channel in that way. Thank you. Mark White, thank you very much, as always, with that breaking story for you.
Well, on to some other news now. The former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is reportedly ready to launch a leadership campaign after the Prime Minister is left fighting for his premiership.
This is the same MP who, you will remember, just 5 months ago resigned from her government role over a tax scandal involving underpaid stamp duty.
Well, it comes as Keir Starmer has apologised and expressed regret in appointing the paedophile-adjacent Peter Mandelson as our ambassador in Washington, D.C. Of course, he was friends with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
OK, now let's talk to GB News political editor Christopher Hope on the developments on another, frankly, insane day in politics. Christopher.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah, Dawn, that's right. I mean, there's reports today that Angela Rayner is readying herself for a tilt-to-the-top job. But as you say there, it's worth just digging out this letter from Laurie Magnus, the Prime Minister, sent 5 months ago today. He's the independent ethics advisor to the Prime Minister. He looked into why the Deputy Prime Minister at the time, Angela Rayner, didn't pay her full owed stamp duty tax bill on a flat she bought down in Hove on the south coast of England. And he found this. I mean, in terms, he says simply that he advises the PM that in relation to this matter, she cannot be considered to have met the highest possible standards of proper conduct as envisaged by the code. Accordingly, it's with deep regret, he says, I must advise you that the code has been breached. Now, that was 5 months ago. Why on earth Angela Rayner or her supporters, I mean, she may deny this, but she won't talk to GB News. She may deny it, but how on earth she can think she's suitable for the highest office in the land is beyond me. And it shows how the febrile time we're in at the moment. In that building you see behind me in Parliament, MPs are no longer there. They've gone back to meet their voters and members in their constituencies. But they are all scratching their heads about Sir Keir Starmer, his judgment in appointing Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador to the US in America, despite publicly available information already out there about the close friendship between Jeffrey Epstein and Petey, as Epstein called Mandelson. That was all known, and in fact admitted in the Commons on Wednesday that it was mentioned in the vetting notes he saw, but he didn't go any further than that, didn't dive deeper, didn't use the apparatus of the state to find out what further is there. Is this embarrassing? Instead, barely a year on from that appointment, he now finds himself in real jeopardy. So MPs are concerned about his judgment. He, for his part, the PM, is said to be furious, incandescent. I was at the speech yesterday in Hastings. He spat out the word Mandelson with a venom I haven't heard before. A year ago, I was also there in the US Embassy when he called him Peter and made a joke about him. How things change in a year, but he's stuck now with having to release this information about the vetting of Peter Mandelson. We're told this morning there are high tens of thousands of documents being gone through in the Cabinet Office and Number 10 by his team to work out what to release about what the PM knew, what advisors knew, what Morgan McSweeney knew, the Chief of Staff knew about Peter Mandelson, what he said back to them, how he defended themselves. Did he really mislead the government about his true links to Epstein? According to the PM, he did. According to Mandelson, reportedly, he didn't. We'll find out the truth soon enough. And anything which is technically breaching national security or risking international relations goes to the separate parliamentary committee, a group of MPs and peers called the Intelligence and Security Committee. And this won't happen, by the way, I don't think, for weeks because of the scale and volume of documents they're looking through. So although reports today are saying Angela Rayner could replace him, that won't happen for a while, and I can't really see how her as PM makes it any better. In fact, it could make matters worse.
Christopher, thank you very much. That's GB News political editor Christopher Hope there on the fact that we appear to have a zombie parliament, I mean, being led by somebody that's in position but not in power.
Well, it's always good to hear, of course, the assessment of Laurie Magnus, the ethics advisor as well, because, of course, the only way is ethics. Now, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come on today's programme.
Yes, American TV host Savannah Guthrie makes an emotional plea for her mother's safe return almost a week after the 84-year-old went missing. We'll have the latest on that story, but after the break...
Angela Rayner once again in the spotlight, but is it fair to judge politicians for how they look or where they come from? We're going to ask whether class and image still shape who's taken seriously in British politics.
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News and Britain's news channel. You don't want to miss what's coming next. You really don't. It's going to get mad. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some breaking news to bring you. The Suffolk Strangler, Steve Wright, has been jailed. Mark White is with us with the information.
Yes, indeed. This is Steve Wright, who was known as the Suffolk Strangler for a series of linked murders that took place in 2006 down in Ipswich. I remember being down there at the time, actually, when there was a manhunt investigating, of course, body after body that kept turning up there. And that town was just understandably absolutely gripped by what was happening. He was later arrested, put on trial and convicted for those 5 murders. But now he has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum tariff of 40 years, meaning that he's got to serve at least 40 years before he's eligible for release. However, he's already serving a whole life tariff, meaning that he'll die behind bars anyway for the murder of the 5 individuals. Now, the the victim in this case is Victoria Hall. She was 17 in 1999, so some 7 years before all of the Suffolk Strangling murders. She had left a nightclub with a friend in Felixstowe, was wandering home late at night when he obviously grabbed her, abducted her, murdered her, and then left her body in a river. And incidentally, that same river was used for 2 of the other victims in the case, the subsequent case in 2006. So Samantha Woolley is a specialist prosecutor in this case for the CPS. She said justice has finally been achieved for Victoria Hall after some 26 years. The meticulous work we've carried out with Suffolk Police, supporting their investigation and working hard to bring this case to court, has resulted in Wright admitting his guilt. Our case was bolstered by critical DNA evidence made possible because of pioneering new forensic techniques, although with a wealth of other evidence which gave him little choice but to plead guilty. Statement goes on a bit, but you get the gist there. They're obviously very happy and relieved that this man has finally been convicted in connection with this cold case. Now they know for sure that she may well have been the first victim. The thing is, you know, there may have been other victims out there as well. This is a man who just 24 hours before he abducted and killed Victoria Hall had tried to abduct another young woman in the Felixstowe area as well. So there's lots of other kind of cold cases that the police have been trying to determine whether he may be linked to as well. You'll remember, if you're of a certain age, Susie Lamplew, who was an estate agent in London, disappeared in 1986. Her body has never been found. Well, there's some suggestion of a link there as well, because Steve Wright, latterly before he was arrested, was a forklift driver, but at one point he'd worked on the QE2. Susie Lamplew, apparently, at one point had worked on the QE2. So clearly there's, you know, a potential link there, a great deal of concern that she may have been the first victim or one of the first victims. But this man, as I say, now having pled guilty, is going back to jail to continue what is a whole life tariff. He will never see the light of day again. One further tragic element to this is that Victoria Hall's mother, who knew, of course, that he had been charged and would stand trial, did not live to see him plead guilty earlier this week to the murder of young Victoria. As I say, you know, another tragedy just to add to the absolute horrific tragedy that this family of Victoria Hall have been through.
Yeah, there are 2 other young girls that we know the names out there, and their families are still waiting, and he just won't say anything, although when he was doing the Suffolk Strangling killings, he was in his 40s, and serial killers don't suddenly just start in their 40s. You do wonder how many more victims.
Well, and also just on that point, you know, Victoria Hall was killed in 1999. The Suffolk Stranglings took place 7 years later. What was happening in the interim, and are there other victims? This is what the police are very concerned may be the case, but it's having those suspicions and then actually being able to prove a case is a different matter.
Other families involved in waiting to hear what happened to their daughters. Thank you very much, Mark White, for that story.
Absolutely. Now on to politics, because Angela Rayner has often spoken about her working-class roots, but she's also faced relentless scrutiny over how she sounds. Is it fair to judge politicians for how they look, or indeed where they come from?
Joining us now is political presentation coach Graham Davis. That's an interesting job title, Graham. Graham, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in. Angela Rayner, obviously, you know, there's blood in the water with Keir Starmer. We know she's ambitious, as she should be. She was criticised by Raoul Braverman overnight, saying, have our standards sunk so low that Angela Rayner could be considered for Prime Minister? A sobering measure of how far the bar has fallen in British politics. And they used that, and he used that tweet, illustrated it by her in that dinghy with a cigarette in one hand, a drink in the other, looking like she was having a good time, to be honest.
Well, self-awareness and political power rarely go together, and she may or may not be aware of her natural role as the successor to John Prescott in the Labour Party family. She speaks instinctively, she shoots from the hip, she's totally unencumbered by any hint of self-doubt. But the problem with her overall attitude is that she has a habit of making enemies in the long term, who are always looking for tiny weaknesses to take advantage of. Her main hobby when she was in opposition was to call continually, vigorously and viciously for the resignation of Tory ministers when they, in her infinite wisdom, had fallen below a certain level of moral behaviour. And that caused an awful lot of bad blood that splashed back in her face when what I could call her multiple location accommodation arrangements came to light. Because, you see, people who live in several glass houses should not throw stones.
Oh, that is a good line. But I have to ask, what does the public think about presentation? Because there have been so many instances where there have been perhaps ill-judged political attacks on the way that people sound or look. I mean, the new Green Party leader, Zach Polanski's, had a lot of stuff thrown at him for his teeth, for instance. I think perhaps that's one of the reasons why he's riding high in the polls. He can say, look, they don't attack me for my arguments, they attack me for my teeth. and similarly, Angela Rayner, if people talk about her accent or that she enjoys a cigarette and a glass of wine, I mean, to some extent, that's people completely ignoring her arguments.
That's undoubtedly true. There is more than a hint of classism and sexism about this current attack. Because you look at, for instance, Nigel Farage, he makes a positive virtue of being known for a pie and a pint and a fag. And he carries it off with style, with confidence, with chutzpah, and also with a certain amount of calculated political ruthlessness, because he knows that this enhances his blokish image, which goes down so well with his core voters. Even though one suspects that he might really prefer an expensive glass of Burgundy, a plate of lobster and maybe a Cuban cigar.
I just think that with Angela Rayner in particular, she was taken to task over going on holiday to Ibiza, where she was having a good time on holiday. What's wrong with that? We've seen it with Boris Johnson, we've seen it with very many politicians. I just think with Angela Rayner, the fact that she was pictured with a cigarette in one hand, a drink in the other, on a beach having a good time, a working class gal, earns her much more criticism than a posh boy in the private members club, as you say, with a very expensive glass of wine and a nice cigar. That's fine. But if you're Angela Rayner and you're on a beach with a bag in one hand and a tin of beer in the other, then people have a go at you.
Yes, indeed. Anyone can go into a pub, but not everybody could go into the Garrick. Political presentation is not fair. It just is. She was exercising her own personal choice. For instance, to have a vape. She's not harming herself. She's exercising personal choice, her freedom, and her smoking vapes doesn't harm anyone else. Similarly, for having a can of beer while she's sitting in a boat. Unfortunately now, you have to assume as a senior politician that the camera is always on. Unless you're sitting in your own living room with the curtains drawn, you cannot prove to yourself that your camera is off. So you always have to be considering the medium to long-term consequences of the way you look at that moment.
And yet, do politicians... I mean, is this going to necessarily be a drag on her ambitions? I mean, lots of people like a beach holiday. Dare I say it, in their youth, some people have been to festivals. People can perhaps more relate to a politician who's done things that normal people do, rather than someone who, from the age of 12, has held a briefcase, had a button-up suit and tie, and tried to never step a foot out of line, appearing like some sort of alien more than a human being.
Well, remember that British politics for more than 100 years has been fuelled and awash with alcohol. How appropriate that I should say this on International Scotch Whisky Day. Margaret Thatcher, God bless her, used to work till 2 in the morning, fuelled by several tumblers of Scotch, and did it very efficiently indeed. Churchill was drinking Paul Roger throughout World War II, almost continually during the day. And Herbert Asquith, on 2 separate occasions, once he was so drunk that he couldn't do a major speech in the House of Commons, and on another occasion he was so drunk that he couldn't stop speaking in the House of Commons. So the point about alcohol, for instance, as an aspect of normal human behaviour, is that these days in the 21st century, we notice it more. Cameras and microphones are there all the time. Unfortunately, poor Charles Kennedy fell foul of that.
Yes.
When he slurred his words during a couple of press conferences and a significant party conference speech. So we are just more aware of it than we ever were before.
Graham, just quickly and finally before we let you go, is there any advice you could give now to Keir Starmer about his presentation that would help him?
Keir Starmer currently doesn't know where to look, who to talk to. He's currently looking more confused than a chameleon in a bucket of Smarties. And I would suggest that there's some way that he could find of isolating himself from the incoming traffic, even for 24 hours. That will give him a personal reset moment.
OK, indeed, interesting. Will he listen? We'll wait and see. Graham, thank you very much. That's Graham Davis, political presentation coach. Thank you very much for coming in.
Well, still to come on today's programme, American television host Savannah Guthrie makes an emotional plea for her mother's safe return, almost a week after the 84-year-old went missing. We'll have the latest on this tragic and bizarre story.
We will indeed. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Another wet one for most places today. Still quite a cold wind blowing in off the North Sea. It is turning a little brighter in the south and parts of western Scotland. Again, doing OK for dry and bright weather. But for most of us, low pressure means more cloud and further outbreaks of rain. We've seen some hill snow across the Pennines. That's turning more and more to rain, but still some snow falling over the tops of the mountains in parts of eastern Scotland. Some of the higher routes here still being affected by that, but turning again here also more to rain. Bands of rain moving northwards, something a little bit brighter across parts of the south where we might reach 11 or perhaps even 12 Celsius in one or two places, but certainly feeling cold on these North Sea coasts with the rain and that persistent and fairly nagging wind. As I mentioned, something a bit drier and brighter across the south into this evening. Still a few showers here and there, but generally, I say, brightening up a little bit, but staying wet over North Wales and Northern Ireland. Met Office yellow warning in place here. Expecting some further disruption. Stays wet too across northeast England. Further snow on the tops of the mountains. But again, with that easterly wind, it's western Scotland doing best for a bit of shelter. As we go through the night, not a great deal of change. This main zone of rain pushes northwards, the snow turning more and more to rain over the hills of eastern Scotland. But then another zone of heavy showers comes into parts of the southwest, something a little bit drier in between, maybe some clearer skies. That easterly wind becomes confined to eastern Scotland. It's like changing wind direction over northeast England. Temperatures mostly holding up a little bit above freezing. Into the weekend, it's a messy mix. Again, western Scotland probably doing OK for dry and bright weather. Eastern Scotland stays soggy. And for the rest of us, it's a case of some dry and bright spells, but also more showers. You can see the low pressure there. Just spinning showers up and down the land. Some heavy, some brighter spells in between. Bye for now.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. High winds are currently affecting the Forth Road Bridge on the A9000, resulting in significant travel delays. On the M4 motorway, speed restrictions continue to be enforced between Junction 35, Pencode, and Junction 38, Margam. Meanwhile, in Stockton-on-Tees, a broken-down vehicle on the A19 northbound has led to the closure of one lane. On the railways, both Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway are experiencing major service disruptions, with notably reduced services operating between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It really wasn't that funny, Tom. Sorry, he's upset me. Welcome back. It is coming up to 20-3. And I'm sorry, Tom's just upset me.
OK, well, yeah, I know you're joking, but it's a serious story now.
Yeah.
Police have confirmed that there are no suspects so far in the search for Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mum, who was reported missing last Sunday.
It's a very, very strange story. Yeah, 84-year-old Nancy is believed to have been abducted from her Arizona home, with authorities confirming that traces of Nancy's blood were found on the porch.
Well, the US President Donald Trump says that he's deploying all resources to get Savannah's mother home safely.
So joining us now is showbiz reporter, the wonderful Stephanie Tecci, who's not in the studio, and that's why I was upset, to be honest with you. Steph, really good to see you. This is the most bizarre story. Just fill us in on the details and where we are with it now.
Dawn, I've been following this story all week, and it's truly heartbreaking because it appears that Nancy Guthrie, who is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, who is the host of NBC's Today Show, so she's a staple in the United States every morning in people's homes, it appears her mother has vanished without a trace. Other than the blood stains that was found outside her home in Arizona 6 days ago, nothing has come of it, except for these ransom letters which have been sent to different media outlets in America, including TMZ, that apparently is from this person who has kidnapped Nancy and is requesting billions of bitcoins in return for her for her to return. So it's definitely quite a very strange story. Savannah and her brother and sister have made appealing to the kidnapper, because we're in this day and age of AI. So they're like, we need concrete evidence that our mother is still alive, and this is not doctored images or videos.
And that's the most concerning thing about this. Do we know when these ransom notes started appearing? Was it before or after it was common knowledge that the mother had disappeared? Because these could, of course, be fraudulent. These could be people just trying to get money and not having kidnaps.
Well, that's the concern, Tom, because the first deadline was missed yesterday for this ransom money, which the family have decided not to pay just yet, because they want to have that confirmation that this is, in fact, true and not someone who's a chancer trying to get money from them. But these notes started appearing on Tuesday. TMZ was the first outlet to report of it. And since then, there's been 2 or 3 different outlets in America who've said that they've had this ransom letters, which I find quite disgusting and quite heartbreaking. This is an 84-year-old woman who has medical conditions, and the more time goes on, the more her health is being put at risk.
And Steph, there was some rumour that maybe someone in the family might have had something to do with it. Is there any more in that line?
Well, Dawn, this is turning out to be some kind of true crime drama, which I don't like at all. But the authorities said yesterday everybody is still a suspect. So that means they're not ruling out the family themselves. And, at the moment, it's really trial by social media. So when the family are coming out, everyone's judging their body language and thinking, could this person be involved? And it's just horrible because, as I said, it's an 84-year-old woman who has gone missing. And, for the people who genuinely care about her, it's quite heartbreaking.
It's such a bizarre and unusual case. We've heard of kidnappings abroad. We've heard of sort of mafia-led kidnappings in some parts of the world. I don't know if I can think of a single kidnapping ransom case within the contiguous United States.
And especially that they're requesting bitcoins as well. It just goes to show how much we've moved on now. It's not about dollars, it's about Bitcoin. And I think, obviously, as people like ourselves who do the news, is that feeling of you're giving the news to people every day. You don't expect to become the news yourself. So I think this is why it's quite hard for Savannah Guthrie as well, to the fact that she must be feeling a lot of guilt, that she must be the reason why her mum was targeted. She was due to present at the Winter Olympics today, which she's obviously pulled out of, which is quite sad, but her mum needs to be returned.
Of course. And Stephanie, what has Donald Trump said about it?
Well, Donald Trump, he's got involved and he says, you know, again, like all of us, he says this is a very bizarre situation, and he's deployed police all over America and local police to get involved to investigate. He says he wants Nancy Guthrie to be brought back home. So to think the president's getting involved, it goes to show how much this case has gripped America, if not the world.
It's quite intriguing, isn't it? It really is. And how long's it been now, Stephanie, since she went missing?
It's day 6, and
Wow.
as I said, the more days that goes, it's more about her health. She has a pacemaker, she has medication which she's on, which she hasn't had over the past 6 days. But in these ransom letters, they are kind of alluding that she's okay, but she's just very worried and scared.
And yet they haven't sent any proof of life.
It's horrible. And even if they do, Tom, how do we know it's not AI?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah. Stephanie, thank you so much for bringing us up to
Thank
date
you
on
guys
that
for having me
incredibly
on.
strange story. That's showbiz reporter Stephanie Techi there. It is just the way. I mean, when I first heard this story, I thought she's in her mid-80s. You know, is it a case of her wandering off? You know, maybe Alzheimer's type of thing. You know, we know that happens to elderly people. And then the ransom notes did suddenly start appearing. And you thought, well, what is going on here?
But I mean, there's a chance, right, that maybe she did wander off. Someone got wind of it that she did.
And then,
someone is not holding her at all.
No.
But someone's just trying to get Bitcoin.
It's just the most strangest case, and obviously we will, if we have any more information on it, bring it as much as we can on it.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News.
Oh yes, it's coming up. It's that time of the week. Yay! It's time for, drum roll please, Tom's Whiteboard Challenge.
And before we tell you exactly what I'm going to be challenged to draw and attempt to explain, why don't we catch up with the weather in Europe? I hear that some of the snowy peaks of the Alpine regions of Italy are quite interesting to visit this year. But let's have a look at the travel weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Further very heavy rain and strong winds in Spain and Portugal, likely to cause more flooding problems here throughout the weekend. Another spell of very heavy rain, especially across the south of Spain, where river levels are already running exceptionally high. There'll be some showers heading into Italy, also looking a little drier for Greece on Saturday with some sunny spells here, and we'll continue to see some sunshine across the Canaries through the weekend and into the early part of next week, with temperatures rising a little bit here too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is coming up to 10 to 3, and have we got a treat for you? The Winter Olympics kicks off in Italy today, and there has been a scandal already, dubbing it Penisgate. It's a crotch-enlarging scandal that has rocked ski jumping. To explain it in graphic detail, well, maybe not that graphic, is Tom Harwood with a whiteboard. Here he is.
Yeah, Dawn, welcome to Doping Corner, or should it be Ding Dong Doping Corner? I'm not quite sure. It's a very strange story. I'm going to attempt to describe it with schematics, diagrams, and they should be incredibly intelligible, especially for those listening on the radio. Now, Olympic ski jumping is a very... No, I've done that wrong. Hang on. We're going to go for that again. So these are skis. Imagine these are skis. The ski jumping is a very peculiar sport. I'm going to try and draw a sort of representative person here who is jumping. Please forgive me for my drawing here. Right, so these are the skis. The skis are not to scale, obviously, but this is a chap who's ski jumping. Okay. Now, obviously, when you're jumping, you want to get as much lift as possible. Your whole body is a wing, basically. What some ski jumpers have decided, or indeed discovered, is that this area. Hang on, let's make this a bit more clear. This area in particular is very, very important for generating lift. If you can make this area bigger, then you can actually increase your surface area and deliver lift. Now, how am I going to explain this? Well, let's draw in another example here of a chap who's sort of ski jumping. And if you've ever seen this, it's remarkable. They sort of fly for hundreds of meters sometimes. Well, this is a chap ski jumping. Now, he's got to contend with the forces of lift, of gravity, and of drag. Now, that should be very clear. Let's make these a slightly different colour to make them even more clear. Excellent. Now, the idea is that if this area gets bigger, then the lift is greater than the drag that it creates. Now, how do they make this bigger? It's incredibly regulated. What they're allowed to wear is incredibly regulated. Let's just colour in their suit here. It's incredibly regulated. They're measured, they're scanned within an inch of their life. What they found is injecting their nether regions with hyaluronic acid, filler basically, they can have a larger appendage and therefore a larger suit in this particular area, generating more lift, getting crucial extra lift, and therefore flying faster and further through injecting their genitals.
Thank you very much, Tom Harwood. We hope you enjoyed that explanation of Penisgate, the current scandal rocking the Winter Olympics in Italy. Kicks off tonight, remember. But yeah, it does increase your performance by 4%, Evident. I'm just leaving that one out there, ladies. OK, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's been good afternoon, Britain. Don't go anywhere, though, because what's up next?
It's the one and only Martin Daubney.
But cheers. Happy Whiskey Day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More rain around today, and there will be some at the weekend, but more showery in nature, so better chance of some brighter spells, and it will be turning a little milder. It certainly feels cold out there today. Snow over the Grampians, turning more and more to rain as we go through. Some drier conditions getting into the south for a time, but look, as we go through the night, further heavy bands of showery rain coming into Wales and southwest England, staying pretty soggy in eastern Scotland and across northern England. That brisk wind continuing to feed into eastern Scotland in particular, bringing a chill, but most places staying at 3 to 5 degrees as we start Saturday morning. Saturday will be another day of showers, but for eastern Scotland, another day of persistent rain being fed in from the North Sea by that brisk and cold wind. Yet again, with some shelter, western Scotland should do okay for dry and bright weather, although showers can't be completely ruled out here. The weather turning a little drier in Northern Ireland, although again some showers here, and it'll be a case of watching these bands of showers moving across England and Wales. Some heavy ones, but it won't rain all day. There will be some drier slots in between. Quite a brisk wind blowing along the south coast, but the winds will be lighter over northeast England and southeast Scotland, coming from a different direction as well. So, although there will still be some rain at times, it should feel a little warmer here as temperatures get up to 7 to 9 degrees. In the south, if we see a bit of blue sky, a bit of sunshine, we could get to 10, 11, maybe 12 degrees Celsius. As we go through Saturday night, still plenty of showers spiralling around the country, so nowhere really looks completely dry. Take note of that if you're heading out. And then on Sunday, the main focus for the wet weather looks like being across Scotland at this stage. A different feel for western Scotland, finally getting some rain in here. And the rain turning a bit more showery in eastern Scotland. Further south, better